Attack Hara Mhabab Kadef Raye Hatat, and welcome everybody to another Wu-Sabat Outformation class here in the UK. Freaks and the Perfect Creature, as Hara Mhabab has explained, the final part. So I think back in December we had explained that we just needed to cover off a final bit, and so we wanted to just carry that over properly and end that properly. Granted, we should be back in February, but are now back in March, so people may have forgotten a little bit about what we were discussing and talking about, so may touch upon that briefly. Probably not 3 hours worth to go in Freaks and the Perfect Creature, so it'll be open question answer class once we get to our final slide, so it could be questions on this particular subject or stuff that we have taught before to aid your understanding of Wu-Sabat, our doctrine. Okay, so let's move through then. So I'm just going to run a quick poll just to make sure that you can hear me okay over this Om chant. So I'm going to launch that now. Hopefully it works correctly. So if you could just vote to confirm that you can hear me okay over the Om chant. So as I continue to speak, that you should be able to hear me clearly over this background sound. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds to respond to that. Some devices you may need to swipe left or right in order to see the poll functionality. Okay, excellent. Seems as everybody's okay broadly with the sound. So I'm moving on now to the vision. So can you see the screen correctly? Again, similarly, if you just vote in the positive or the negative. So you should be able to see a screen. Wu-Sabat Outformation Classes UK. As part of our delivery of actual facts, we seek to bring you a multimedia medium of ways in which we interact to help people's understanding of what we're teaching. Excellent. So it seems most people can see. If there are any issues, then please place the comments in the chat and we'll react and deal with them as the class goes along. Okay, so if you want to connect with our ancestors, as is our cultural traditions as Sabians, so if you join us for the first time, don't be too freaked out. We are becoming who we are in this day and time, and as Sabians, we have our own language and culture. Wu-Sabat, if you just join us for the first time, that you can learn a little bit about today. So we're going to start off the class with a affirmation, helping us to connect with our etheric ancestors by way of our physical ancestry, and that's going to be done in the tones of our language called Misbatia, also known as Sabaic. So I'm going to do that now, and then we're going to translate that into English for the proper understanding for those on the call. Abdoe Kaleh Namazurat Wufakur Ametasam un Empa Paut Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk Empa Paut Wu Kaleh Ashuk Kawun Jawef Nea Anuki Kasam un Empa Paut Wu Pa Paut Kawun Kasam un Emnea Anuki Wahu Ameh Pa Paut Wu Pa Paut Kawun Wahu Ameh Nea Nakuk Kadur Najo Ameh Kasam un Empa Paut Wu Khabub Ameh Mushachas un Nakuk Kadur Kawan Kaleh Pafef Nakuk Dayur Jawef Pa Paut Ameh Wase Ameh Dayarni Kawun Lake Bakoe Jawef Pa Paut Anuki Abed Bin Afashni Pa Paut Kawun Anuki Pa Paut Kadur Nakuk Kadur Ba'ud Amun Nakuk Amun. So we began by saying begin all prayers and thinking as a part of the all expanding. And we said, I am in the divine love of the all expanding, and all divine love is in me. I am a part of the all expanding, and the all expanding is a part of me. I am one as the all expanding, and the all expanding is one as me. I can succeed as a part of the all expanding and fail as an individual person. I can be all that I want in the all expanding, as long as my want is to stay in the all expanding. I am never by myself. The all expanding is, I am. The all expanding can, I can. The all expanding does, I do. So that was a positive affirmation there to connect us with our ancestors and help us to deliver a clear class and answer your questions for you today. So if you just joined us for the first time, the Zoom platform has a number of functions to aid your class experience today. So as Hara M. Habab previously said, if you need to adjust your audio settings for any reason, on your panel of options here, you have the audio settings button, so you can click that and adjust accordingly. Have three separate icons here. So one of them is the chat function. Please select everyone for your default option when posting, and that means that everybody in the chat can see your comments. So ideally don't post questions in there. So it's for feedback, different things. As I say, people may have feedback, positive, negative discussions, particularly maybe amongst each other, but ideally we want to focus on what we're talking about today. But in the chat area, that's what it's used for interactions with ourselves or yourselves as those participating in the class forum. Now, it is an interactive session, so you should be primed to ask questions if that's what you feel you need to do. And so definitely not to sit there in ignorance. If you don't understand something or it's not clear, then we're not doing our job properly as student teachers. So ask questions so you don't go away in ignorance. If something's not clear, it helps us to help you. So two ways to do that. You can raise your hand. It's the first way with pressing the hand icon. And when you do so, you'll basically be asked to unmute yourself if you've joined us online. And you need to do that, and then you'll be able to come live and ask your question directly to myself as a student teacher for today. If you have dialed in, those options are slightly different. So it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. What we asked when you've been given the permission to unmute yourself, whether you've dialed in or you've come in online, you've got permission to do that at will. So we ask that you stay muted as to not disturb the rest of the call. The other way to ask questions, if you don't want to come through live and speak to me directly, then you can put a written question in the Q&A section. So just type that, and then if it can't be answered by the facilitator today, then that question at the appropriate time will be posed to myself as your student teacher today, and then we will obviously answer your question to the best of our ability. So those are the ways in which you can interact with us online. If you're on Facebook, join us. Again, welcome. So the question options are not available to you, and there is a link in the chat for you to join us directly. It takes about 10-15 seconds or whatever to register. You'll get an email, and then you can click in, join us on Zoom if you want the full interactive experience. If not, any questions that are asked in the chat, we're not always monitoring it as it goes along, so will be picked up after the class. If you do want that full interactive experience, then by all means join us on Zoom. But if you're comfortable to say on Facebook, no problem. So recap quizzes are a feature of some of these classes to ensure that what we're teaching is being retained in a meaningful way. As I say, this is not it might be considered by some entertainment, However, obviously we're here to help you learn this doctrine given to us, or gifted to us by our ancestors, the Parnatharu, by way of teacher, the Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn for this day and time, Dr. Malachi Z York. So, this is a thing where we need to master. So we'll sometimes do these quizzes or recap quizzes to just test your knowledge. So don't be afraid of them. They're there to help your understanding. And usually in some of the old actual facts series of books, you found a series of questions in the back of these books. And that's again to help you retain knowledge. So you should treat this as a study session or class in all its proper way, shape, and form. Okay, so let's get started then with an introduction, a short introduction. Not been on for a while, may have some new people, so just need to explain a little bit about who we are, and then we can get into the class topic today, and then answer some questions that people may have on their minds. So who is the master teacher? Again, it's important when you're dealing with any organization to understand who is the source. We are, as Sabians, we are ontologists in terms of our character and nature. So we're always seeking to find out the source, or going back to the root of the thing. That's what right knowledge certainly deals with. And so the source of our teachings and our organization and the doctrine that we defend was brought to us by way of Dr. Malachi Z York, also known as Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn or Yaanuwn, born in Takoradi, Ghana, 1945, June 26, to Mary Abba Akran York, whose birthday we celebrate, in fact, every year, and obviously it's coming up, I think, next week. Yeah. So Mary Abba, she was also known as Fatima Miriam. You can see there on the screen. Her crossing date. So she's now one of our Muslafu, and was appointed in the reintroduction of our culture in this day and time, which is matriarchal as opposed to patriarchal, which is primarily what you see in monotheistic religions today. We've always been a matriarchal society. We deal with the Kadem Makhmatu, or ancient Egyptians, where it's one of the highest expressions of Wu-Sabat that the world has seen today. Us in that particular way, shape, or form, we were a matriarchal society. So things that you see ritualistically in our doctrine always align themselves with nature. You understand? So we want to be in resonance or in tune with natural nature. Obviously, and natural nature, or the English word nature, is where they get the word from, the word Tharu, which we say in the Celtic language, and it means overseers. Understood? And then when we talk about our physical ancestry, so the 30 ancestors in your 4 generations, the Celtic word for that is Salafu. But when you say one who is of my ancestors, you say Muslafu. Yeah, so you see people say Muslafu, and they may say Salafu. It just means ancestors. Yeah, so your connection to your higher ancestry comes by way of your physical ancestry. So, and that's to keep us, ensure grounded, or we maintain actual facts. We're not dealing with spookism. So your connection to your higher ancestors, say, through your physical ancestry. So her crossing over, we cross over, we don't pass away, or we pass on, we don't pass away. And so she is now one of our Muslafu, who individuals can call upon for assistance by way of their own great-great-grandmother, great-great-grandfather, so on and so forth, through their own ancestry. Yeah, so that's the power, or the hidden power of us. But it's important to know how who the origin of our teacher is, at least in terms of his physical structure. So Mary Abba Akran York, very important, sacred feminine in the last 6,000 years, as we move into the new cycle, having ended the last cycle, very important, sacred feminine. And you see her there in the clan mother attire. And when she transitioned, that role was then passed to her own daughter by way of the mitochondrial DNA, and that's her daughter Mukpatauret, or Kimamtat, I should say, elder Mukpatauret Atum Rayay. There's a lot of meaning in that name for those who really know. And as I say, that's now passed that mitochondrial line onto our clan mother in this day and time. So we're getting back to some resemblance of implementing the culture of Wu-Sabat as we were in various different forms that we've appeared on this planet, expressing our culture at its highest level. Now, on his father's side, Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, and that, in fact, Mary Abba York is on one side, where Dr. Malachi Z York gets his Ghanaian ancestry, as well as, excuse me, Native American ancestry, also from his mother's side. On his father's side, Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, born 1922, transitioned unfortunately in 1970, where he was unfortunately his life was taken prematurely, but comes from a very great family. Sudanese side, obviously going back again to our pre-dynastic ancient Egyptian ancestry on that side of things. Now, this individual here, so this is Sayyid Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, and here his father, Sayyid Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, was the son of Sayyid Ahmed Al-Mahdi and Mukbula. Now, Mukbula was of the Iwe tribe, part of the Akan tribes in Ghana. And so what you there have as their son in the combination of genetics there, as Sayyid Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi is a member of the Dongolawi tribe, and also which is Sudanese, and of the Iwe tribe of Ghana. So a combination of Sudanese ancestry and Ghanaian ancestry through the mitochondria, obviously, of his mother there. And so the Ghanaian lineage as well comes down this side of the family by way of the wife of the Mahdi. Yeah, so very famous spiritualist here, Master Karama, a very powerful individual. Understood? So, as I say, we've got this kind of combination of, let's say, Ghanaian and ancient Egyptian, or pre-dynastic, as they classify pre-dynastic, but it's all Tamarayan or Kadem to us, you understand, from all the way down to Napata and Meroe, or some say Meroe, which is pre-dynastic ancient Egyptian or Tamarayan culture. Now, Isa Al-Hadi Al-Mahdi, the name obviously there from the father's side of the family. Here, he's showing him at age 25, where he discusses an incarnation that took place. So in ancient Egypt, the renewal of our story takes place by way of certain people being born into this world to guide us back to our one and true purpose, or arguably, which is us cultivating ourselves to achieve perfection in this realm. Understood? Now, it's not an exclusive function to the Nagaru race. All of the different races or planetary nations, as they should maybe be properly called in this day and time, have teachers or warners sent to them to achieve or help them to fulfill their own potential as part of their ancestral connection and what their ancestors programmed or produced or created them for their genes and their purpose to fulfill their potential as their children. And in a similar vein, us as the Nagaru race or Negroid race, as the children of Panatharu, which is what the Egyptians refer to them as, produce again teachers or a pathway, ascension pathway, for us to develop and fulfill our full potential to achieve perfection. And that being in our culture was known as Amun Nabab Rayay Akhakta, a vehicle or a vessel that enables our ancestors to communicate through in order to convey information that we need in this day and time to achieve our full potential or grow into what we're supposed to become according to natural nature. The Egyptians referred to that being as Tahuti or Tahuti, and in other cultures, the Greeks, Thoth, thrice times great, different names of that culture, understood? But it denotes a vehicle or a vessel that enables us, say, communication between our elemental ancestors, or etheric ancestors, to communicate with us physically. Now, why is that necessary or important? Well, as we've said many, many times in this setting today, you can get a disconnect, as I say, between even children of one generation and their parents, understood, who they have produced, but they don't understand each other. So you can imagine our ancestors, the difference between their existence and ours, although observed, they might not necessarily understand our nature, understood, and who and what we are. So that vehicle or vessel is specifically designed or created to deal with who they're dealing with now, because the genes tumble forward, various factors, environmental factors, which we touched on a little bit today in this class, cause us to change. You understand? We've gone from gold, being in abundance with gold and riches. Now, you understand, we're calling ourselves N words and B words, understood? And we've gone very far away from what we originally were. So the best way sometimes to deal with that is to birth someone amongst us or beings amongst us who grow with us, understand our nature, and then the doctrine of Wu-Sabat can be then tailored for delivery for the mindset of this day and time that we're in, understood? So it is an organic doctrine that is designed and delivered for this day and time. So be under no illusions. Yes, it's designed. You understand? Because when somebody's calling themselves a master teacher as opposed to just a teacher, they have mastery of teaching. And therefore, the solution or the medicine that's needed has to be tailored for the patients that it's going to be delivered to. Understood? You don't send a doctor to people who are already healthy. Send a doctor to people who are sick, understood? So the reality of the situation is that's part of their plan. Now, in the early stages of of removing this disease, which is referred to as a spell, I'll touch into that a little bit later, it was necessary then to produce a certain combination. And so the physical structure was known as Isa al-Hadi al-Nahdi in those monotheistic religious schools. And the internal being who was guiding the pen, one of our etheric ancestors incarnated into the being or the vessel at that time, was known as El-Khadir, the Greek one. Understood? Sounds somewhat outlandish or crazy, but you'd have to look at the works. You know, judge a tree by the fruit it bears. So when you look at the works, the amount of writings and books and teachings that were delivered, you have to judge it by that particular standard. And obviously, when one partakes of it and then either tests knowledge, partakes of it, does the rituals, etc., they may get a better understanding of whether they feel that this is real or whether it's not real. Understood? So this is the things that we need to do to test, or that were done by many to test that and then recognize that path that they were on for self-improvement. And the doctrine itself, in many aspects, was a self-help tool to develop one's inner faculties and outer faculties as well, to enable them to come together and work with others. So principally, the spiritual doctrine that was being brought was to help us to unify mentally, and then the physical unity will follow. So the medicine necessary to deal with the religious mind at that time, because Wu-Sabat was first brought in its various different guises, but it was too heavy for the people at that time. So the combination to deliver or address at least the religious aspects of the spell was this combination of Isa al-Hadi al-Nahdi and El-Khadir. Now that was up to the point where the last 6,000 year cycle was about to end. So the outgoing of some what's referred to as the moon cycle, coming into the sun cycle, required now a new set of teachings, because effectively each of those 24 elders is given an hour symbolically, and so that hour commenced from 1970 all the way to 2030. 1970 to 2000 was dealing with those religious or monotheistic degrees, so we would have mastered religion in its basic terms and forms as they would have it today, I should say. Then now, as the sun cycle was coming in, we are now getting into our stuff. So you mastered some aspects of the spell as you would have it, and then that would be over. Us now moving into finding out who and what we really are for the next final 30 years, or the last part of the hour. And so in 1996, a book called The Holy Tablets was released, which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, referred to as the Book of Lamb. And that book was the bridge really between religion and reality, if you look at it. And then came or was released the Sacred Records of Atumre, known as the Black Book, and the Sacred Records of Tamaray, known as the Gold Book. Understood? Now, the Sacred Records of Atumre, or at least that early part of it, so we only received part one of one, a 19-part book there, and that was now taking us into really uncovering a lot of the symbolism and breaking down things as they were supposed to be. You know, that book is heavy in quantum physics and bringing us, to say, into the world of nothingness. Yeah, so which really predominantly the environment we're in is the world of things as opposed to the world of some things. So a combination was necessary. This is what we find today. The inner being was referred to as Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, still guiding the pen today. So whether that's true, not true, whether you think it's a pile of nonsense or whatever, you have to put that to the test. The issue is that the knowledge and information that you've learned in this society today, you have not really, if you're being honest with yourself, you have not put that to the proper test in many aspects of your life. You've accepted it. We have accepted it, not you as in excluding me, but we have accepted it without proper challenge. You go to the supermarket, you pick up a chicken because it's labeled chicken. You have not tested it to know for certain that it is. And when you bite into it, you know, you may think it's chicken. Who knows what it is? You understand? As many people in the UK many years ago were eating what they thought was beef lasagna from cows, and then a scandal uncovered the fact that there was horse in there. So, which for some people was a scandal. Some cultures around the world, they eat horse. You know, it is what it is. So this is what I'm saying to you, is that we have not fairly put those tests in place in all aspects of our lives. Understand? But obviously this particular individual teacher came along and said to question everything. Understood? And so instead of questioning everything, we question him, which is what black people do. You understand? Not to make it a racial thing. But we're told to do something, so we question the person who told us to question, instead of questioning everybody as we come into a new mindset that's coming in this day and time, was to get us back to factual, or get us back to facts, away from belief. Here on the screen, I'll go to so much detail, go in previous classes, you can see that in more detail. But a teacher came along as part of a long list of various different messengers who came into the world to give us a piece of the puzzle and maybe prep us to be ready for the day and time we're in. If you think about, as I say, Marcus Messiah Garvey, the seer, and his back to Africa message, yet he did not set foot on the motherland. So, but he's associated with that message and taking our people back to Afafreye Ka'a'u, or Africa. And he didn't set foot there, but his message is seared into our minds, subconsciously at least, throughout generations. So now in this day and time, in that second half an hour, people are are very open to the idea of returning back to the motherland, when this was seen as crazy, even not even probably 30, even 40 years ago. So some of you went to school and various different things where Africa was purely ridiculed. Now, today, with this generation, it's seen as certain countries, Ghana, for example, it's seen as a place to go on holiday, but it's not even a second thought for some people. And it has seemingly all of the good time things, whether that's a good or a bad thing, but it has all the good time things that people could do over here in the West, but, you're doing it under the sun. So, is that a good or a bad thing? See, it's developing in a way that, as I say, people are open to the idea of moving there, or maybe not dying here in the West, picking up a pension, so on and so forth, but returning back home, or what they consider to be at least their spiritual home, as well as ancestral home, to live life there. So that, that's in less than 100 years or so. That messaging has kind of seared into it, where people are open to those kind of ideas. So, let's say a long list and line of people bringing various different things, until you get to this kind of culmination. You think about Dr. Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, for example, a very prominent author, researcher, etc., that certainly made the world know that the ancient Egyptians were black people. Do you understand? Unmistakably, undeniably, yes, there's people there now calling themselves Egyptians, but they are Arabs, effectively, not all, but predominantly they are Arabs, and they are an Islamic culture. That's what they practice and follow. They are studying the ancient Egyptians. Understood? But the ancient Egyptians were not Islamists, or they're not Mohammedans, and they wasn't Muslims, by the definition of the religion as it is today. Birthed from a man named, he was born, born in the sort of 7th century. So we see here that, and his particular brand of delivery, he always referred to the ancient Egyptians as the Egyptians, even though they looked like him, and he saw that they was him because of his own religious ideology that he had been born into as he saw it. He referred to them as the Egyptians. Where now in this day and time, or as we came into the year 2000, remember it was said in a certain place, all of the Egyptians say, I am an Egyptian. You understand? So they say, I am an Egyptian, not the Egyptian. They say, all of the Egyptians say, I am an Egyptian. Yeah, so us as Nagaru, coming back into the knowledge of who and what we were, was now saying, well, I am that. I'm not studying them. I am that. So I'm studying myself. This is who I am. I'm looking in the mirror, so to speak, and seeing myself as those pharaohs. Understood? I'm seeing myself as Hurrah. I'm seeing myself as Sakhmet. I'm seeing myself as Hatshepsut, and all these various different iconic ancestors within our story. Understood? So that was a difference here, which now, let's say, the Warner, the Parmenthar in this day and time, Dr. Malachi Z York, had to pick up us from that kind of muck and the mire, take the journey forward based upon all of the work that had been done prior, certainly in this last 6,000 years. Yeah, as a teacher and a master teacher. Yeah, so you see that statement. Don't make me holy so you can find holes in me, because what happens is that divinity likes to be assigned, and then certainly we have this, one of the aspects of the spell is not accepting leadership, or black people have a hard time accepting leadership in their own skin color. Understood? And the problem with monotheistic religion, you understand, for us at least, is that it makes you subservient to other races. So these degrees, or these early degrees, Mosesism, Christism, and Mohammedism, when you look at the iconography of these degrees, it is other than self and kind if you're a Nagaru person. And this is one of the reasons why this subliminal kind of programming that's kicked in, which is why you find when some situation happens, you find black people jumping in front to defend other races, particularly if they're part of that religious ideology. They're the ones now jumping in front to become the front line. So Joe Rogan incident, case in point, whether you believe Joe Rogan is a racist or don't believe Joe Rogan is a racist, black people are running to throw themselves in front of the bullets of the controversy that he found himself in for using words that he shouldn't be using. Now, my point is that whether he can say he's not racist, my thing is if you've got a Nagaru or mixed race daughter who is effectively, because of dominant genes, Nagaru, why would you be using that kind of language out of your mouth in the first place? Surely your child, who you've adopted or taken on board from your wife, why would you even be found to be using that kind of language ever in life, not even as a joke or whatever the case may be? So this is the thing you need to think about, certainly as a person of another race. Why would you find that in your characteristics and your makeup? So, but he didn't have to do much speaking for himself. There was thousands, I'm exaggerating, but there was a few prominent black people ready to fall on their sword for this individual in that regard. Now, my point is it the same when it happens in reverse? So many things that we do and behave, because as we've explained to you before, that the word God, G-O-D, you understand, phonetically, Gad, the seventh son of Jacob, G-A-D, and then the word guard, G-U-A-R-D, are phonetically the same, you understand? And so the religious programming, makes us subservient to other races. We're second-class citizens. So no matter how you can give yourself a black Jesus, you can give yourself a black Moses, you can give yourself a black Muhammad. But the reality is, you in the Islamic degree, you can't go and as a black man or black woman go and marry. Well, black woman, not black women, but as a black man, you can't go and marry one of their daughters. One of the Arab daughters or Pakistani, do you understand? Southern Asian families, you can't just marry in and marry one of their daughters, but everybody's the same. There's no racism in Islam. Of course it's racism, because in the original the copy of what they call in the Torah, man or Adam was created in the image and after the likeness of God. And so certainly in these last 6,000 years, people have taken it upon themselves, or mankind has taken it upon themselves, to draw those images. Draw what that looked like. And then those artistic images, as I say, have become movies in this day and time, and so on and so forth. So the reality is you're playing second-class citizen, even though we were first upon this planet, and ultimately all roads lead back to us in ancient Africa as those supreme beings that all worship, because they're worshipping some version, as I say, of the sun. So we get into the science of what's being spoken about. So these are the things that, in 1963, when Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn came, and you've got Dr. Malachi Z, you've got all of this crazy understood ignorance in the minds of our people that had plagued them. And now you've got to sort of unravel all of this information and try and at least walk them back to this ancient Egyptian doctrine, which is full of a completely different world of symbolism and secrets and knowledge, etc., that the world has some understanding of, but very little understanding of it today. Trying to get the people who actually came from it to at least recognizing in the first instance that they are those people and that they're not some other type of people. That's their road to finding out who and what they are, is studying that culture, understood, some of elements of it feature in modern day society today, like rapping, you understand, for example, is some of that symbolic way of expressing ourselves, but obviously it's been poisoned and polluted today to be other than what was originally there, which was gifted for, to be able to spit this doctrine or this new cycle information, as say, to bring our people in alignment with natural nature, and anybody else who respected that culture and was willing to listen and embrace it accordingly. So I won't go through all of this, as I say, we've covered this in previous classes, but as I say, just for any newcomers today, this is what we mean by when we talk about actual facts or hakakat. That's I suppose an upgrade to some degree of in the holy tablets. Those knowledge tests was evidence, experience, and reasoning. Understood? Because some tests of knowledge can't always be seen necessarily by evidence base, so you need some other elements to be present to know that, as I say, looking at the result, for example, that gives an indication that actually that this must have happened before in this way, according to the rules of the environment and the natural rules of nature. So, for example, if you're looking at yourself as a man or woman, then you must have had a mother and father, understood, in some way, shape, or form, because that has to be produced, i.e., if you're a human being, for example, in that regard. I mean, even if a woman through parthenogenesis has given birth to another daughter, for example, the male aspect or male principle is going to be the Bartholomew gland in her. So by those rules, you have to have that, you understand, as male and female principles, when we're talking about physical birth at least. So even though the person may not have seen your mother and father, or maybe you don't even know who they are, for example, but the result determines what came before. So you're looking at some of those knowledge tests, you're looking at these types of things to be able to determine what the source and origin of those tests are. And so actual facts in this day and time, or new spirituality, is factual information, not spookism, and not believing in fantastical things that as I say, you don't have proof for. And if what I'm saying to you doesn't mean to say that you're closed-minded about it, you should retain an open mind, because there's a lot of things, many things, a plethora of things in the environment, universe, multiverse, omniverse, that we have no knowledge of, know nothing about, even to the point where, as I say, many things we can't express, don't have the words for it in the language that we're speaking, to express what those things are. So you must retain an open mind. But your ancestors, as the Mokmatu or the ancient Egyptians, as I say, dealt with factual information, did not build pyramids on faith and belief. So these are the types of examples how what we'd be looking for to determine whether something is or is not an actual fact. If it's not an actual fact, then it would stay in until you encounter it, until you've got those necessary tests that have been satisfied, then you take it on board. It stays in the realm of belief to you. So you must run these tests upon all knowledge that is presented to you. The issue is for us is that doesn't mean confirmation, because you're seeking confirmation, as you see in this next level of sort of teachings here. That journey that one walks on, or the quest, yes, the first quest, the word question is the word quest. So that quest that you're on, you see that on the 8th level there, after asking those 6 kind of knowledge questions, you get proof, seeking confirmation, and then that which is what the thing is obviously revealed to us. Yep. So confirmation does not mean the white man discovered it and therefore he's got some documentary that correlates with what we're saying, so therefore that means that's true. That's part of the spell. You understand? But that's part of the confirmation that Negroes, understand, i.e. as the hybrid that got created in the 400-year bondage from 1600 to year 2000. A hybrid was created called the Negro, understood, which was this subservient individual who, as a result of us being, what they call enslaved, in bondage, understood, and then indoctrinated with the schools of monotheism, created this subservient hybrid, understood, who basically wanted to be like them, but obviously looked like us, which many of us even today are the remnants of that, and until maybe we encountered, did the work on ourselves to break the spell, or so maybe even still on that journey, we still have those characteristics of spell pan being who's seeking to go on that journey to find out who they are, as opposed to what they've become by way of the decisions they've made within the environment that has an influence and factor on their genes. Understood? So confirmation means confirmation of the thing itself, not necessarily because the white man through their institutions has said, give it the rubber stamp and said it's okay. That's not proper confirmation. It may be a type of confirmation, but it's not proper confirmation. As you start to step into areas now where that are past 6,000 years, very specifically, just even further back, because you're into arenas where they didn't exist. So you understand, even if you're going back even several thousand, you're stepping back into arenas where there wasn't the type of institutions that you're seeing around today that were even recorded in information. So you're dealing with people that, let's say, we were reasoners, the so-called Druidians, they considered to be thinkers, and then the Kasu, or Caucasoid, seem to be imitators, understood? And so that's not necessary, that's not confirmation. Copying something that somebody else has done, understand, is not confirmation. So this is why you need to have an ontological mindset, because you have to go to the source of where these things actually came from. Yeah, because here, even, which is weird, isn't it? So I think we talked about it in one of the previous sessions. A person can go to ancient Egypt. They take a picture of a pyramid, for example, yes? And then they come back to the West, let's say if that's where they're from, they come back to the West, and then they put that image, let's say, on a website or in a book or something of that nature. You come along and you use that image, and then the person wants to say, hold on a minute, yes, I've got copyright. I've got copyright. So, but where was the right of the original? So, let's say you sue me for using your image and you get money from me, or I have to pay you to use your image. How are you then, the copyright owner, you understand, paying for what the original done? So the original builders, the original culture that you took the picture from, that you wrote the book on, how are you compensating them? So within the society, the copier has the rights. But what about the originals? So who is really plagiarizing who out here? Yeah, so once again, we're getting nothing or sitting in the background. And that's cool when we understand how nature works. But it's not cool when we're trying to find out who and what we are. No one's giving us credit. Because in his story, our story doesn't exist. Yeah, they want us to do paint by numbers in his story, isn't it? And basically painting black people in certain points of his story, never saying, well, how did his story originate? Yeah, so the copier has the rights, not the originators. Yeah, the source having rights. Understood? So this is, you can see with the plethora of issues and problems, etc., that did designing a coherent set of information that would be able to shape people in a way, as I say, that would get them from underneath being under another race, which is unnatural. It's unnatural for us to be subservient to another race. It's unnatural for a person who is born as a melanated individual to want to imitate another race, as it would be unnatural for them, in one sense, to want to imitate us. But you're imitating the original, isn't it? So within you is the original. Understood? Within you is some of the original, or what you're aspiring to be, at least, because whoever the original is, that's the highest vibrational state of what a human being can be. Hence why they're being referred to as supreme beings. So however they live, if they're living in their highest form, then that is the highest form that any human being, in an original race or sub-race, can obtain within the natural environment. Understood? So coming back around. So we have, as I say, a journey that we've walked along with this particular teacher and continue to walk upon with this teacher to reshape us into who we need to be in this day and time. Hence those words, information, understood, keeps you in a certain type of formation. So what you read, what you take in, shapes your being physically. Understood? So we needed a doctrine that was outside of the environment that we found ourselves trapped within. Understood? Because that would enable us to transform, you understand, as opposed to conform. Yes, you understand. So let's keep it moving and maybe get to where we need to be today. Any questions? I'll try to shift across.
There are no questions currently.
So because we're having genetic conversations or conversations about genes, we have a sort of mantra, no one wins a race in racism. So it's definitely not about racism, but about race unity. You understand? So again, you know, we teach to our people, and those who want to respect the culture and want to embrace it, because it's our history is really human history. Our story is really the human story. So everybody really was learning about the originators or those who gave birth to the other races are really learning about themselves and their own origin, if they want to see it in that regard as well. But the cancer of racism will cause different races not to respect and see it that way. So, you know, at a certain point, just because of where our people have found themselves in the situation that they found themselves in, they have to take time out to do the work and find out, help themselves. Then, as I say, they can help manage the environment and care and give a damn to some degree about the natural environment, which, you know, most people are not doing so. You understand? As you see reflected in music, fashion, whatever culture today, you know, not necessarily focused on environmental factors, but environmental factors are significant in the success of whether we are going to grow into that or achieve perfection within this environment. Yeah. So let's move forward, as we all finish where we need to be today. But let's look at just a couple of things just before we move on. So we looked at some of these maxims before, but it's good to go over to kind of plug us in. So 17. So to overstand part of the overseers is to overstand the positive and negative of every individual. So our Za'am or Wu-Sabat is not necessarily about trying to be good, but it's about trying to be, but becoming who you are versus that what. So the who is the true individual, who they are according to their genetics, and we have, as I say, positive and negative sides of our nature. That Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, when you look at the extraterrestrial nature and makeup of the being or whatever, was designed to deal with the positive, agreeable aspects, which we're trying to realign ourselves with, but also the negative aspects of individuals, in the sense, as well as different races who over time had intercepted our genes, had mixed in with us, which brought that more adverse, disagreeable nature inside of us. Understood? And this is saying to us, well, you need to accept both sides because nature accepts both sides. Yes? So you need to understand that in to some degree, in a lot of detail. The Mind Scroll, if you've ever read that or can get a copy of that, asks us then to look at ourselves as we walk through the journey of life as a director, yeah? You understand? Directing actors for a movie. You as an individual are one of the actors, but you're also the director. So you're looking at yourself and directing yourself through this pathway called life, because certain of us, or even maybe all of us, yeah, have to learn to manage our nature. And if you've got this in your mind that, well, I'm this positive, special, you understand, being, I don't hurt people, I don't do anything negative, blah, 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 you're not being real. Yeah, so, and I hear a lot of statements, sometimes you watch certain things in the media where people make excuses and say, well, that's just who I am. That's just my nature, that's who I am. Or they say, they'll give an opinion and say, well, that's just my opinion. Meaning to say they're not accountable for what they have to say. But that's not how real sacred masculine and not how real sacred feminines live. You understand? You're responsible for all your decisions and you're responsible for what happens in your own life. Yeah. So as I said, the Mind Scroll, as he used the term, the inner side, but must learn that he or she is responsible for their own life. Yeah. So the decisions that you make, yeah, where you place yourself, where you are and where you are not, is your responsibility. Do you understand? And so you have to learn to manage. Not about just saying, well, that's who I am. Well, sometimes you need to change certain aspects of who we are to realign it for more agreeable or more positive living, especially when you're living amongst other people or you're trying to live as a tribe and as a community. Your natural nature might be, I like to do things and have my own way and everything. But it leads to conflict. So you have to change your ways of doing things, not necessarily to fit in with others, but you have to be complementary within certain environments. So sometimes you have to control certain aspects of our behavior and negatively, our behavior and characteristics in order to fit in with, in a certain, or live in a tribal environment, do you understand? And certain things of that nature. There's two aspects to a person primarily. There is the individual person, understood, and then you have tribe or your nation responsibilities for your race. And then the nine ball, which was released in the 60s, describes that, look, what is best for an individual is not always best for the race. But what is best for the race is always best for the individual. And so you have to manage those aspects of self if you're a person who is about progression and growth, you understand? And us as a race that is coming back into knowledge of who and what we are. Because tribally, I am you and you are me. Yeah, when you actually really break it down, understood in terms of our following our, the sort of mitochondrial journey of our genes and genetics, we're all one race. Yeah, so you just happen to be the head of your own aspect of the genetic line. And so you're carrying the weight or the fate, let's say, replacing faith with fate, you're carrying the fate of your lineage. Yeah, as we all are born in this day and time with the opportunity to see this information. So we have to accept both the agreeable aspects of our nature and disagreeable. Yes, they have a function, they have a purpose, etc. But at the same time, certain aspects, negative aspects of our nature are depleting the aspects of us, understood, that etherically or spiritually we need to empower. So if a person tells lies, for example, it's not just the fact that the impact of the lies, it's depleting light energy within the person. It's not enhancing light energy. So if you need an aspect of yourself to exist as energy past the point of death, then you need to grow that now while you're living. So certain aspects of our behavior we may negate, understood, in order to be more positive. But there are certain aspects of positivity that can make you vulnerable in certain environments you're in. You don't defend yourself with your positive side. You defend yourself with your aggressive or your disagreeable side. You understand? So we have to accept both aspects of our nature and manage them accordingly, and not just say, yeah, so that's just who I am. You understand? Oh, that's just my nature. That's just who I am. Well, sometimes it's not appropriate. So you have to shape in your being, understood, to, let's say, work within certain rules, let's say. Understand? Because we went through a process of breaking the spell where we had to be rebellious. We had to rebel against the system that we were placed within. We had to go against it, because to conform, let's conform, that form that we were conforming to was other than self and kind. Now, the word conform can mean with form, or it can mean contraform, against that form. But that form that we were conforming to, understood, which they say to go against form, let's just not to get confused it. Contraform or to conform is to say to be with a thing. But the word con, as in contra, means to go against. Yeah, to go against form. They say the word conform means to align with that form. So you can see it two ways. The original form of human beings was the Nagaru, yes, female, correct, or sacred feminine. That's who all human beings stem from. They refer to as mitochondrial Eve. So that is the original form. But everything they do, certainly in the Western society, goes against that image and goes against the people that look like that image of the original form. Yeah, which is anti-nature. Isn't it? Yeah, standards of beauty, you look at everything, it's always going against form. And now today they want you to accept plastic over the real. Fake bum, fake this, fake that. Yeah, and if you call it out, now your body's shaming. Yeah? Let's see, if somebody presented to you on a plate, let's say you were hungry, you're lucky enough, if you're a man, for example, you're lucky enough to get a woman to cook for you. Not that that's a role, by the way. But if you're lucky enough to get a woman to cook for you, put something on your plate, for example, and it was, I don't know, chicken, whatever, veg, you understand, steamed veg, rice, whatever people eat, you understand? And the chicken was plastic. It's a problem, isn't it? The chicken was plastic, it would be a problem. It's not real. What you can do, lick the gravy off of the plastic? You understand? So they want you to accept fake over the real. Yeah, when I was in Ghana, maybe a few years ago, I went to a particular restaurant and they had this drink, I think it was tangerine juice, freshly squeezed. One of the baddest things I've ever tasted in my life. Freshly squeezed tangerine juice in Africa. When you drink that, someone gives you a glass of Sunny D after that, you're going to spit that stuff out. It looks orange, but it's not orange. Yeah, so they want you to accept the fake over the real and disregard the natural. Yeah, make it like it's nothing. You understand? Like it's immaterial. It's not important. And try even almost to put them on the same weighting, the fake and the real. They want you to put them on the same rating. Don't judge the fake. This is the nature of the conform, isn't it? Yeah? To go against the original form. Because how the society is moving in that direction. Do you understand what I'm saying? Called evolution. Whereas what happened is, or what the master came with, or the master teacher came with, is revolution. That's not Malcolm X standing with an Uzi at the window looking out. is where the evolution, you add an R in front of it, you get revolution. So that's moving in the opposite direction to where this society, or certainly Western mindset, is taking us towards, which is self-destruction, as opposed to self-preservation. Understood? And you understand that in Wu-Sabat, creation is growth into form or system, and destruction is change in form or system. So even in us, their definition of destruction, for us, if we claim back what their true meanings are as they're defined, they're still positive in a way that how we're using them. You understand? So this is why this statement here, or this maxim, is very important to embrace that, because we needed to, as I say, going back around, break away from his system in order to try and become, or put ourselves on a journey where we're becoming who and what we're supposed to be according to natural nature. We cannot achieve the heights that we need to achieve by imitating him or another race. But in that ability to disagree, which we were empowered with, in those 60s and 70s, which we were empowered to go against the status quo, so to speak, what's happened is, for some, it means they can't, in the positive use of conform, you understand, they can't conform to any system. So now when the spell is seemingly broken, and you're now trying to build a nation, or seeking to build a nation, you're seeking to build an environment where you can now, as you apply those self-help tools and you want to work with your fellow sacred masculine and sacred feminine, understood? Some people can't conform to any rules, any laws, any cultural settings and things that we need to do to say, okay, let's get on one accord. Let's live for and by each other. Let's be unified physically and mentally. They have a problem conforming. But the whole purpose of taking you through these different stages or aspects of the spell was so that you would understand, oh, well, why do we need a rule in place for that particular type of behavior? Because the environment is supposed to be conducive for us to be growing or becoming what would be classified as supreme beings once again. And every child born thereafter should have the best opportunity in the best of environments to become the best of who they are, which is supreme beings, which at the point of death, we transform once again into 720 beings. 360 mastery of the physical, 360 mastery of the etheric or spiritual, some say. Understood? So we're not as opposite sexes coming together and producing children. No, we're producing star children. Yeah, we're coming together as soulmates in the optimum environment to produce star children, supreme beings. Yeah, but some can't then conform to any rules. Nothing is they can conform to. When we're trying to, where we're seeking to put rules in place, yeah, which align themselves with natural nature, understood, and you understand why we're doing it. It's not just a case of thou shalt not kill, and then somebody else, well, why? Okay, there's some moral thing sitting behind it, but why in that particular book was that law implemented to stop a certain type of behavior? For what purpose? Who put it in place? Why? Etc., etc., etc. All the who, what, where, why, how has to be answered in connection with those things. So you know why you're doing it. Yeah, and the various schools that we went through or are going through, I say went through in the early stages and are even still going through today to learn all of the questions behind certain things. Yeah, the reason why you don't go as a man and sleep with somebody else's wife is because human beings kill each other for that behavior. So if you want to have peace in the environment, you put certain rules in place to understand, to manage your nature, if you're going to comply with those rules. Or if you're going to apply with a certain way of life to not put yourself in situations where if you apply the guidance, then everybody's good. But we understand people have a nature to go against guidance, do their own thing. So there are things in place, wisdom, you understand, maxims, Partarak, the doctrine, you understand, spiritual practice, etc., all designed to shape our being and our nature, by way of information. They're keeping us in a certain formation, but when it's our stuff, that formation is in the image and likeness of Panatharu as their children. We're shaping ourselves in the image of Panatharu as their children. And them as our parents. Which really, if you seek out the true etymology of the word, is dealing with providers. Which is the real name of them as the Mozak. So these things are important to dissect, understood, because as I say, we have a positive and a negative nature that we have to deal with. And an aspect of our nature that's not really of self. It's what we inherited forcibly, as I explained earlier, with the bondage of our people, where our genes now were, had the genes of the Mokasu, or the Caucasian, forced then within our makeup. So within your genetic makeup, you have forces in there which are adverse to your progression inside of you. Which in some way, shape, or form have to be exercised, understood, and certainly are most definitely controlled. Even before we get to clean that, this is why they say, well, one has to clean themselves inside out, isn't it? And then outside in. And all aspects of what has been presented by the Munthar or the Warner in this day and time are necessary for that cleansing process to take place. And obviously it's clearly a daily exercise. But environment is as important as everything else, because 24% of your DNA is in a transient state. And so therefore, you're influenced by your environment. That's why it's difficult, as people might say, to do the right thing in the wrong environment. We say that again. It's difficult to do the right thing in the wrong environment. So when you look at how us as the ancient Egyptians, how we moved, everything, even the structure, the buildings, what they were made from, do you understand? The way the shape of the towns were and how they aligned with the river, natural environment, and how what was it? It was a reflection of what they saw in the stars, because Parnathar are sons. So you want to stay in resonance, a certain frequency with them, of the divine pathway or ascension pathway that they have laid out for us. It's got nothing to do with what they taught us in monotheistic religion. We are not waiting for a Messiah. That concept does not exist in our doctrine. We have equivalents of it, from where they copied and grafted from the original, but you need to find the original story. Stay away from the fake. Your soul is not through the eyes of the authors and translators of the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. That's their stuff. And a Nagaru person cannot find, as I say, soul satisfaction by imitating the life of somebody else. That's just how it is in nature. You don't hate me. They say don't hate the player, hate the game, but don't hate me. Understood? Those are the facts of the situation you have to accept. All races have their own ascension pathway, or some, for it seems, dissension pathway. But all have their own ascension pathway, and they have their own deities, and they have their own ancestors. And hey, if everything was right and exact, we would all be able to live in the environment peacefully, understood? But over the last 6,000 years, understand, those Adamites or the Muadamu have caused much problems, obviously, and terror on the planet, which, as I say, by certain diseases within the natural environment, seeking to eradicate them and those who want to be like them. Understood. So, this is the point that we were making. It's the maxim number 7 here of the maxims of Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn. Nature provides mortals with sustenance, intellect, and will. A combination of these produce a healthy, intelligent individual in a what? Healthy environment. So both have to be managed. Both have to be managed. Yeah. Some of us who've grown up in city environments, understood, don't know about nature providing sustenance in that way. And so we're not walking environments where, if you're hungry, you can just pick food off of a tree. Do you understand? Some of you in the islands or on this pool or live in those environments, more country environments. It's not about nature's provision because it's in your face every day. Yeah, somewhere along the line, we have taking ourselves away from reality. How many stages are between us and picking the fruit from the tree? If you don't grow your own food or have access to it in the natural environment we're in, isn't it? So there's manufacturing, understand, processing, money, understand, all these different stages of things before you as the individual can pick up whatever, that particular piece of fruit or food or whatever, you understand? Before you can get hold of it and it comes into your cup. We're facing that now, isn't it? With significantly rising food prices and things of that nature, which now people are struggling with. Understood? But nature provides. Man provides at a cost, or mankind provides at a cost of moon, key, or money. That which takes us away from reality. But the point is that environment is important. You understand? That's why when the case happened, remember, they're taking away the environment that we're seeking to build for ourselves in order to create healthy, intelligent individuals. But within that, amongst us as a people, there's going to be what? Those adverse behaviors. Yeah, understand your own nature. Sometimes, if you're in something too positive, who does it attract? It attracts the negativity. Understand? Even with us, who may consider themselves, say us, but people who consider themselves to be more agreeable, sometimes they're not ready for a boring life. Or what society may consider to be boring. Meaning to live in a very cyclical fashion, doing positive things in a sort of daily routine. Yeah, because when you look in nature is about cycles and routine. Certainly for the more stable aspects of what it does and produces, obviously it has agreeable and disagreeable aspects as we would see it from our perspective. But it's moving in certain cycles. If those cycles don't happen in the way that they're supposed to, life can't be produced, life can't exist in the way it needs to. So at a certain point, things are boring. I say boring, but they happen the same way happen in the same way every time, every day within the cycle. Think about most of the functions within your body. You need it to happen in that way for your existence. I mean, small or minor adaptations, understood, for things in order for things to work accordingly. So we have to make ourselves comfortable with routine or cyclical living, or, as I say, small stage progression, if you want to say, like daily progression. We're building on top of things on a daily basis to keep ourselves in tune. Because that want for excitement, understand, chaos, and these things obviously causes problems. It's the antipathy to, understand, maybe agreeable living and things like that. So if that's part of your nature, yeah, when you're around certain people and it's boring to you, you need excitement. You need to find ways to manage that in an agreeable way. You have to put that fire out. Understand? With water, which is also symbolic of secret knowledge. Yes, we have to manage our own nature to make this thing work. And it's everybody's responsibility. It's not the person in charge's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. Let's say you look at the makeup of the human body, every cell in the body has a copy of the DNA. Not just the brain. Let's say it has access to the mind, or the abdominal brain. Every cell has a copy of the DNA, the instructions. So if we're a nation or a body of people, then everybody must uphold the values. Not the person in charge, and as soon as they don't do it, then they want to bring that person down. To make ourselves feel like we're better than the person, or we're upholding the moral values of this or that. Everybody needs to be an example within the environment, for the environment to work. And everybody at all times is holding to account. Then that way, isn't it? The whole of us raised together. And at certain points, we have to understand people are growing in roles, growing in positions. And you have to allow people time to do that. Understand? If we're going to change how things have always done. Because the white man wants you to come along, as I say, and as soon as one thing goes wrong, boom, pull them down. Because what it means is that you can never have that divinity progressing amongst us as a nation, because we haven't accepted the fact that we have positive and negative aspects as part of self. That's what they've created. Yes? But in their environment, which is interesting enough, the black man and black woman are walking in a concrete jungle made of glass. You trip and fall in this society, you make a mistake. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah? In your job, whatever you're in or whatever, you make one mistake, boom, trip, boom. You're like a glass person walking in a concrete environment. You might crack, which means you can continue. But too much of a mistake, too hard a fall, you're going to smash into 1,000 pieces. It's almost impossible to rebuild your life in his society. That's how they have it. But yet he is walking through this environment, understood, as a glass person. But when he falls, yes, the ground turns into sponge. That same concrete environment for you turns into sponge for him. He's able to bounce right back up when they make mistakes. You've seen it right in front of your eyes in the just us society that we live in. And we're not part of the just us society. Yeah? We're part of the ones that they want to inflict the punishments on, understood? Yeah, because our pain and the energy from their pain, our pain, gives them life. How many people are making money from the pain of our culture? The pain that we have suffered. Think how many people are feeding off of that pain. You have to go and listen to a modern rap album or music album, or some of the programs that we see on TV, which we, despite multiple choices, we may find them entertaining. But a lot of the time, it's based off of our pain or our suffering, you understand? Who dies in a movie first, yeah, or gets killed. So it's off of our pain. Someone's feeding off of our pain. And it's empowering certain people. So there are differences, as I say, to the way we approach things. And so you see the mess of the challenge, as I say, of his master teacher coming into the environment to now have to sort all of these different issues out that are facing our people. Because whilst you're in it, sometimes you can't see what the problem is. This was one of the things, isn't it? As a people, we couldn't see a spell that we were under. Yeah, remember, in those early Right Knowledge series, it talks about spiritual ignorance and racial blindness. These were some of the aspects or characteristics of the spell. Meaning to say, racial blindness, not knowing who the evil one is in the many forms that it comes with it. Yeah, so, and in spiritual ignorance, we don't know how the rules of the universe work and different things of that nature. So somebody was casting a spell upon us and we couldn't see that we were under that spell. Somebody had to come from outside in to really highlight these particular characteristics so we could stop feeding the forces. And ultimately, in order to achieve that, you have to be in amongst your people, at least for a time, in the right environment. Anybody who wants to come amongst us has to respect the culture, has to respect the rules of our society, and they have to embrace who and what we are. They do that, not a problem. Not doing that, then it's a problem. If we're going to, as I say, become who and what we're supposed to be in this day and time. So again, you see here in some of these others, the separation between who the person is and then what you have become, and really based on this environment and some of the decisions, obviously, that we've taken, often for ignorance. Yes, you can't get away from that. That's what that dissatisfaction is sometimes when you're doing certain things and you're not really getting it. Yeah, I'm sure many of us would maybe want to Netflix and chill and not have to go and work or whatever. But the reality is you start doing it for a bit, you're going to feel that, you understand? I'm supposed to be doing more than this. Understand? This is not what life's all about. That dissatisfaction is going to be in there somewhere, which is why many of you are even on this class today or are seeking knowledge or seeking who you are. You understand? Because that dissatisfaction is not satisfied unless you're doing things which are for the progression of self. Yeah, or you're really within this, progressing yourself within Wu-Sabat. That's what quenches that thirst to fulfill one's potential, to become perfect. People are always saying, I ain't perfect, I ain't perfect. No, you may not be perfect, but you should be on the journey of seeking perfection. It's one of the reasons why we're here. It's one of the reasons why we exist. Yeah, as you know, the rules of existence or the rules of things, which ultimately we are linked to and come from, all the way back to the original, is being, becoming, and became. To exist. Yeah, but we must achieve perfection within that existence. That's what we're seeking in this environment. It's what we're seeking to do. Now, so I came giving you what you want, religion, so you learn to what I really came to give, which is Wu-Sabat. You understand? And many people get caught up along the way in these different religious schools. Yeah, not realizing that in order to deal with a lot of the symbolism of where we were at, what we had taken on board, etc., we would have to get to the point where, and I use that word very loosely, but trust enough to say, hey, well, let me look and see what my ancestors were doing all the way back then in the past, and then how is that relevant to today? How is it helping us to transform in this day and time? Who are we truly? Who are we? See, a lot of discussions, there's a lot of stuff in the media at the moment of black men and black women going at each other, blaming each other for, you know, who hasn't done what, you understand, who has not provided what, who is not doing what, you understand. It's a narrative that's built, especially amongst the youth. You understand? But, hey, we're all we got, so we better have to find some way to figure it out. And a lot of the discussions that are taking place are ignorant of who we are as human beings. You know, who and what women or sacred feminine are, who and what men are exactly, and how the rules of our interaction of our various natures, how they must work with each other for optimum living. This is why the Patriarch in this day and time is so important, because in moving away from the patriarchal mindset of the monotheistic religions and moving back to a matriarchal mindset, you have to understand what the context of that means in your esoteric journey. There is no transformation without woman, pure man, because the woman is still linked to the solar biological forces, or she's linked to the stars, because her menstrual cycle is tied into the 4 phases of the moon. So she is still interlinked to natural nature. So as nature changes, she changes. And she must therefore transform her man. Yeah, so the two of us are coming back together as one again. And if man uses his sexual power, i.e., remember 9 in our numerology, 9 is what? Mental power. And 6, its opposite, denotes physical power. Yeah, so in the day and time that we're in, what we've been thinking about, or in the last class, is that mind must rule body. This is the new spirituality in this day and time. The 9 must dominate the 6 on the smack circle. The 9 must dominate the 6. So your mind is controlling aspects of you. You're not being led by your physical body, your desires, which can be your desires or the 30 ancestors, obviously, which include you as well and your parents, understand, 4 generations down, could be led by those desires if they're certainly being exhibited in an adverse way. So if we don't know those basics, for example, well, who are we? And then don't understand natural rules that get triggered in the environment, irrespective of emotion and decision-making, so on and so forth. Yeah, because you're in a reactionary environment that has rules already pre-programmed into it by the Natharu. So when you talk about nature, it's reactionary environment, isn't it? A person can get pregnant on the first time of having sex. They can get AIDS on the first time, irrespective of the emotional context of how the people came together. Because if the environment's correct, yeah, and the rules or the things that are taking place within that sperm ovum, you understand? If certain things align, the person's going to get pregnant. Does it matter if the farmer is a good or a bad person? If they plant the seeds into the soil, if the soil has the right characteristics, the seeds are going to grow. Does it matter that the farmer is a racist or that he owns slaves? Does it matter? When they put the seed in the ground, if the natural rules are triggered, the seed is going to grow. So a person's religious understanding of how the environment works doesn't mean nothing. Does coronavirus care, you understand, that a funeral is taking place? No, it doesn't care. That even if you want to try and social distance, it's probably very difficult at a funeral. And how many elders have got coronavirus at being at funerals? Sometimes one of the hardest of not to interact physically with people. Does the virus care? No. If the transmission rules are satisfied in the environment, the person is going to get the disease. So the teacher has had to do years of work and dedication because of what was implanted upon us religiously to get us just to see or be able to see what is really taking place or accept reality. And even then we struggle. want a savior, want some supreme being that's managing every facet of a person's life, where you don't have any responsibilities for the behaviors that we undertake against each other. So without that context, how can you have true relationships, or true unions, when we don't understand the rules? So men will continue to use women as their dumping ground. You understand? Because what? The man is weakened physically through sex. Women are weakened. Their DNA is weakened through sex. So if you're becoming a dumping ground as a man to fulfill your lust, each one of those times you're wasting, the connection with the woman that she has with the mental. You're destroying a potential soul if your intention is not to stay with that individual and cultivate that relationship. And vice versa. Women can't behave like men because the rules of the environment don't treat you in the same way. You can't be goddess of the environment, i.e., this is how growth works. That no human being can come into this world without coming through the womb of a woman. So therefore, the woman can't behave like a man when it comes to her sexual powers. If the rules are about equality as we would see it, then yes, women can sleep as much man as they like. But the problem is that you're retaining all of the DNA because you're like the soil of the planet. You are in the womb of darkness or nothingness facilitates growth of human life. And so in order for that to work in the optimum way, you have to be able to retain the DNA to cultivate it and grow an individual. So what comes with the great faculties of you being facilitators of life is that, boom, on the flip side, you're retaining that genetic information for at least up to 9 years, which can disrupt your soul because it's affecting your connection, because you've got personalities inside of you which may be adverse to the progression of your being. So in this context, man has to understand how he affects a woman. And then in that context, women have to understand how they affect man. And then the two of us have to come together and think, hey, what's best for the race? Yes, I like that particular individual. I like boom, 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 having variety, boom, boom, boom. But that's not what's best for the race. It's best for me as an individual. It's not best for me as a race. Yeah, I like that guy. I like this guy. I like that guy. Boom, boom, boom. But the gap between having this man or that man, I can't do that. It's affecting me physically. And then both of our pathways to achieving supreme being status again or achieving perfection are affected. And guess who knows this? Mr. and Mrs. Six Ether. Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Mukasu. You are learning, hopefully, through these classes and other people teaching this doctrine around the world, that the environment is set up to take your soul at the point of death. And as we have said many times before in this class, you don't know the value of the soul. Stop pretending like you do. Many of us don't even know what it is. But yet somebody died. Yeah? Who was of significance, or the imprints of their soul in the lives that they touched and the people they affected. You understand? Then you see a small inkling of its power. You see the power of it when you see icons who pass. Yeah, depending on the significance of the person, it can cause millions of people around the world to stop what they're doing, you understand? And freeze for a moment and focus on that individual. Look at Kobe Bryant's death. So that is the power of the emotional expression of a human individual. So why would somebody not, if they know you've got that kind of power, why would they not augment it? They know it's going to something they can subsist and feed off of. So you don't know what a person's prepared to do. Remember, back in the day, the Order of the White Rose, they would dig up the body of our ancestors because of the ailments and things they would suffer from, crush their bones, mix it in a drink, and drink it. Now, you may not do that, but not everybody on the planet is the same. I want those supreme powers that them Nagaru, understand? Those Negroes have got. They don't deserve to live forever. I deserve to live forever. We deserve to be around forever. And as I see it, we can use them for any which way that we need to in order for us to survive. If you're not looking at that as some of the forces that are holding you down, then of course you're going to have a problem. Until, yes, the Palm Thar, the Amun the Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn comes along and starts opening your eyes to the reality of the environment we're in. How you're in, as I say, a reactionary environment, set of rules, which are there for efficiency. Do you understand? Because certain decisions, if we made them emotionally, we may not make the right decision for the environment. Especially when it's to do with family, or loved ones who we considered loved ones, etc., etc. People would always seek to bend the rules for those types of relationships. And that is not what is always best for the environment. Yeah, so when you hear Muhammad Ali saying service to others is the rent you pay for your life here on earth, you understand that as you start to look at some of these higher beings in existence, it is a life of service. Yeah, and even in that film, I say rubbish film, I always say it's a rubbish film, I think it's called Gods of Egypt. Yes, one of the aspects of the film, which was quite interesting, even though they say it's a rubbish movie, was quite interesting, was the journey of Horus, they called Horus, and him accepting his responsibilities. Yeah, because he had the opportunity just to do his own thing. Yeah, which many of us, if we're truly honest with ourselves, we play that role. I want to do my own thing. I want to live by my own rules. Understand? We're not truly in service to other people. And even those who are, let's say, you get little or no credit, you understand, from the group. Yeah, you get little or no credit because many of the things you do serving, they're not visible. It's not about necessarily holding your hand. Look at what I've done. Look at who I helped. Look. It's not about that type of living, is it? You understand? A lot of the things that are beneficial to us are not credited. Like the original is not credited. Yeah? Do you thank the trees every day for converting carbon dioxide into air? Are you thanking the sun every day for you understand, providing life here on Earth? Are you thanking the planet for regulating the environment? Let's be honest. Some people are. I'm not going to say all. Some people are, but a lot are not. You understand? And are we in service to the environment? Analyze your day. Analyze your days, let's say. You know, so some in this society, particularly in the West, you have to do a lot of negative things in order for survival, isn't it? But in your heart, you think you're a good person. Yeah, but if you're driving your car to work, if your car's spilling out fumes or whatever, then you're helping to kill people, isn't it? As you're driving to the supermarket and you're putting all these fumes into the atmosphere, you're part of the problem as well, isn't it? Irrespective of, that's just part of life, isn't it? Until you, come up with or you get a car that's not doing that. So we have to have these positive and negative balances where, you understand, we're doing things which are progressive and we're doing things that are regressive. Now, part of the challenge in life is to do more progressive things, you understand, more agreeable things than disagreeable things. Yeah, but we have to start having, at least get ourselves to a point, even if it's not in our own lifetime, where future generations are realigned, understood, where the way they are living is not an infestation into the environment. You understand that the two things are aligned, even now from a technological point of view, because I'm trying to go back and live in some kind of dark ages, but the new technologies have to be aligned with the natural environment. Have to care again. Yeah, and have to use our intelligence, to complement that. You understand? Once we get past, I suppose, the necessity to survive within the environment, where do we go from there? You understand? How does our society then progress? Yeah, Wu-Sabat is laying you a pathway for what needs to happen, but are you giving it your all? Are you developing yourself? Are you helping to make certain things come into fruition and practice? Because the white man ain't going to do it for you. It's not within his interests, how he sees it, to do that. So the only person who is going to be left with is for you. The helping hand you're looking for is at the end of your own arm. But the reality that you also have to acknowledge and face, you're not alone. Yeah, you have a group of ancestors who must, according to their rules of their environment, help you if you place the request upon them. And so we've ignored, in our spiritual ignorance, we have ignored that power. Yeah, be out here fighting on our own or calling upon forces that you are never, ever in life going to get answers from, because they're not of your own genealogy or ancestry. And even if you thought you got help, likely it was you that helped yourself in that situation by way of positive things. Yeah, so these things are designed to help us and navigate us in order to progress. We have to master them. There's this kind of perception as well that there's reading books and then there's spiritualities, if there's some kind of two separate things. Yeah, remove that poor mental notion from your mind. When the warner comes, you must master everything that the warner puts out. So they decided, I didn't decide, you didn't decide, Panatharu decided that books were the way, in various different shapes or forms. Yeah, to read is one aspect of spirituality. So it's all, if it's progressing us to where we're supposed to be going, it's all etheric, isn't it? Which has many different aspects to it. So if you're a person who leans more on the spiritual side, if you're a person who leans more on the study and reading side, remember that director in the movie, you got to deal with your weaknesses. Well, I need to strengthen up my reading side if I'm just love spirituality. Yeah, my language skills are weak, so I need to strengthen that aspect of self, even though it's not what my heart wants to do on a daily basis. If you're going to get true balance, you understand? You got to strengthen all. You got to become 360 in this. I mean, there's no Ben Simmons in this situation, a basketball player who can't shoot a certain type of shot. You need to have all the skills to play in the game of life progression. So the power is in reading, because that's where it started for a lot of people. Yeah, and they say if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a what? Because most don't know about the hidden power, you understand, of Amun as spent energies, as thought and sound. Yeah, how the books have power within them, which is transforming you every time. Not only that you read, but you study to the point where you master what's in there. As I said to you, Wu-Sabat you don't learn Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat learns you. So putting yourself in the environment, yes, remember we're talking about environment, put yourself in the environment where you can open the pages and it can teach you. Put yourself in the environment where you're doing the exercises that can help realign you. And ultimately, you have to serve other people to truly master self. You have to help other people to be in service to others, as the example that was sent is in service to you. You're not able to do his own thing. He's got to work every day for our progression. That's his job or role or purpose. So then what's ours then? We need to transform, to fix the problems of the conditions that we find ourselves in. So this is ultimately, why we're here. Now, let's keep it moving. So any questions? I've rabbited on a bit for an introduction, but any questions?
There are currently no questions, no.
Okay. All right, let's get to where we were then in the previous session. So there's not a lot left. As you can see, we covered a lot of different things. Right, sorry if I'm messing up your eyes, I'll get you blinded. Right. Okay. So I think this is where we pretty much were. We were getting some understanding of collagen and the structure of collagen, I think, in last class. Yeah, let's go back. And I think we had gone through Holy Tablets, chapter 6, at least to show you. So basically, for people who wasn't there in the first time, you can go back and watch 6 parts of this. So basically what we were explaining to you was that the makeup of collagen with its triple helix structure, excuse me, its triple helix structure, what was being explained or expressed in Freaks and the Perfect Creature was that basically it enables us to be a semiconductor of energy, understood? And its properties, as I say, we were introduced to the fact that this thing, as they talk about, is liquid crystals. You understand? So this is substances that basically have the properties of the molecular structure of a crystal, but then are able to move in a liquid type fashion, but have the properties of a solid as well. And the real sort of challenge was for us was that when you look at, Man from Pack Risk, here, we were talking to you about the fact that even in what their understanding of what that is today, that all the way back then, even in this Supreme Mathematics series, obviously that was released in the 90s, yes, that the Master Yaanuwn was explaining to the fact that, look, in their environment, which could be compared to solid, in their environment, they live in dimensions, which could be compared to solid, liquid, and gas, that you claim you have on Earth. But in actuality, water is a solid is a solid, and gas is a solid having minute particles. So in Earth, there's no liquid and gases. Earth is a world of matter. So even back then, understood that, our term, we haven't encountered real liquid, you understand, in its proper form, understood. So these properties in the way in which we are ordered and the various aspects of our human body are technologically ordered allow the Nagaru, understood, to be a converter of, vast forms of energy. You understand? We are able to take Outformation and convert it into what is being referred to as information, which, interesting enough, let me just go back. When you look in actual facts number 6, Wu-Sabat is the key to transform information into Outformation. You understand? But we have the ability to do the reverse of that. You understand as well, which is to transform Outformation into information. We're structured in order to do that in a way, and obviously collagen, in its makeup and form, facilitates that process. Do you understand? So the important thing here is there is more to know about who and what we are, understood, as human beings, understood? And unless we start to get to grips with that, we haven't really got the time to be arguing about what color Muhammad was, or who Jesus was, and what color he was, etc. When there's so much knowledge and information about ourselves which has been missing in the last 6,000 years, which we have to almost cram in, understood, in this last half an hour of this cycle with this particular elder. We haven't got time to play around and saying, that was necessary, that those religious arguments were necessary for a certain point in time, maybe even unnecessary today for those who are still, in that school of thinking or thought. But for those who have moved maybe past that, you have to get into mastering what the master teacher is teaching. You understand? Because as we explained earlier, there are certain ways we define words that are not the meaning as shown in the dictionary. You understand? And that's just one level of understanding to master what's been taught in the books. Another level is to master the language. Because however it's being conveyed in the language, there's a different meaning to it than that's being conveyed in English. You understand? And so we need to get a better understanding, which is part of actual facts. That's what they're there to do. And the various other books that have been released to teach you about you. So I think we got to the point where we were explaining, and these things you can look up in your own time, terminologies to help with understanding. And we'd gone to tablet 6, chapter 6, tablet 15, and went through that in some detail, which is effectively a detailed way of explaining that we are turning ourselves inside out. So we're becoming more mental than physical, understood? And as you know from these classes in our doctrine, remember, we're managing 2 brains. The brain, which is obviously in our head, and then the abdominal brain. So we have 2 brains that we're dealing with here, you understand? That we have to order and make sure are ordered correctly and in tune with the right frequency. So if you imagine Wu-Sabat is like a frequency, or not is like a frequency, it is a frequency, or at least how it sits in this particular universe. You understand? And if you look in actual facts, seek out number 18, tone, sound, DNA, molecules, and vibration, understood? It gives you the frequency of Wu-Sabat, you understand, in some detail, as F sharp, actually on page 5 there, if you're looking at the book, of 1.655 times 1043 hertz. So this is a frequency, at least positioned in this universe, that we're supposed to be in resonance with. And this is why people periodically, do you understand, get these kind of flashes of inspiration, do you understand? Or aspiration coming in the form of inspiration and revelations, you understand, and things, because there may be certain points where we are in resonance with that frequency, isn't it? We've read a book or dietary changes, or we've chanted, or different things of that nature. So you're jumping in and out of this frequency. And this is why consistency, we were talking about earlier about cycles, is really key. Because doing things on a consistent basis, on a daily basis, builds up your power, doesn't it? So if I miss a day where I'm maybe not doing that, or whatever, a couple of days or whatever, for whatever reason, certain things may not be conducive to be able to do all the things necessary, your drop is not massive, is it? If you've built up, you understand, for example, if a person's training in the gym and they're lifting weights and building biceps every day or whatever, you understand what I'm saying? There's not a big difference if a person doesn't train for 1 week. You understand? They'll lose some maybe power if their body's used to that, but it's not going to be a massive drop for them to contend with. However, you don't train for 6 months or whatever, there's a big difference in how that's going to perform. That drop is going to be a lot more significant, and then you've got to kind of build up, understand that strength and power again. So you need to see your inner faculties in a similar type of fashion. That the things that you're doing, study language, understand, chanting, spiritual practice, understand, in service to others, progressing, Wu-Sabat, however you're moving, you need to build that up in a consistent fashion on a daily basis. Now, there may be something job-wise, this, that, whatever, depending on how you make your money. The environmental factors could interfere with that progress. But, in these early generations of us who are the new beings, encountering this new cycle information, we're going to have to go through this for a better life for those who come after us. Do you understand? So that when we transition, we become a power force for those who are living in the physical, because all of our energies have transitioned in the correct way to these higher levels of existence at 7, 8, and 6 ether vibrational rates, which are always of our own ancestry. So the issue is, isn't it, that when we're transitioning or passing, some aspects of our being are being trapped in these lower levels, understood? Because of our vibrational expression, obviously at the point of death, you understand? So the soul or whatever, or the Ba'h, you understand, that smashes into 1,000 pieces, into many cars, and depending on that vibration, it's going to ascend or descend to say what the energy signature was based on our last thoughts before we transition. So if you take a picture of a person, isn't it, a scientist by name of, a Russian scientist by name, Russia's a bad word at the moment, but a Russian scientist by name of Semyon Kirlian, from a technological point of view, developed a special camera that picks up a person's aura, isn't it? It's called Kirlian Photography. And obviously, when that picture is taken of the person's aura, it's like a kaleidoscope of different colours, you understand, which particles of energy moving at a certain speed. So obviously, the more of that's aligned to more agreeable, or what we might classify as positive frequencies, are going to be attracted or in resonance with certain frequency ranges or levels, and therefore will gravitate towards that. Others, if they're more negative, are going to be gravitating towards that. And this is what, as I say, your 6 ether forces are seeking to feed off of that power. Understood? Which is why a lot of people's lives are stressful. Do you understand what I'm saying? Which causes us to keep secreting adrenaline and different things or whatever. And as I say, invoke those lower forces, which are associated oftentimes with the colour red. You understand? As the lower side, or those lower forces, versus blue, which is at the other end, faster vibrational rates. So red is the slowest, you understand, before it disappears out of the human range, and blue is the highest before it disappears out of the human sight range, you understand? So this is why you see those colours very prevalent in a lot of iconography in this society, you understand, the blue and the red. So it's important for us, as I say, to ensure that our vibrational rate through life, and that we're building up the internal faculties of ourselves, or the energy being of us, understood, which is the counterpart to our material aspect of us, so that basically when the physical body disappears, there's the substance that we've been building up, so below so that bit below what we see is the matter side, there's something there to work with. and it's strong enough, as I say, to then transition to higher states of existence. So what 15 was talking about us was that effectively, to keep it simple, there's a change happening, being ordered obviously by nature, and we are becoming more mental than physical beings. So we're not a subject of being controlled or ruled by our physical desires, you understand? But actually being in tune once again, and party to receive all of the benefits, let's say, and skills and characteristics that comes with being a supreme being again. Do you understand? Which is primarily intergalactic travel, interdimensional travel, understood, not being constrained by death. You understand? So, and then constrained to this environment as well. So here, the pathway to us to becoming supreme beings again. So let's move past this and get into the prism so we can conclude today. Any questions?
No questions. There is a hand raised. Peter has his hand raised. So what I'm going to do, Peter, if you have a question, I'm going to allow you to speak. So Peter, you can now speak. If you'll unmute your microphone, if you have a question.
Wahobat Nababakat Hesi. Na Hesi.
Robert, Peter. I'm Africa. How you doing?
My cat got stolen about 5 days ago. My cat got stolen 5 days ago. You know, in ancient Tamaray, cats were respected and seen as gods. Am I correct?
So the cat. So when you're looking at certain iconography connected with animals,
yes,
it was basically that they're showing the animal nature in man.
Yes,
and so yes, felines, in terms of some of their characteristics, if you study the nature of them, how they live,
yes,
it could be aligned to certain characteristics in us as humans.
yes.
Now, you have a difference, which you have to understand, of you've got dynastic portrayal of Egypt and you've got pre-dynastic portrayal of what they call Egypt. When you see deities with animal heads on,
Yes,
that basically is showing a combination of two different groups of people that said they had interactions with extraterrestrials. So
yes,
both of them being, in some instance, dark skin or black in color. And those two are your Anunnaki and the Natharu.
yes,
So that's showing there, when you talk about the dynastic periods, it was the coming together of two cultures. One in ancient Sumeria, understood, where Iraq and that region is today, and us in Africa, understood? And
yes.
so in their biblical Noah story, fake story, but in that story, it talks about people coming out of Africa and then settling in Sumeria or Sumer, understood? And then at a certain point, they're making their way back in, you understand, back into ancient Egypt. And they had to be initiated back in because they've been living away from us, they had to be initiated back in. So you've got this hybrid then of what they call the dynastic periods. So 46 dynasties, when they're talking about, is symbolic of 23 chromosomes, let's say, of Sumerian ideology, 23 chromosomes of Tamaraean or Egyptian ideology coming together to give birth to a new hybrid. And so with that came, so the animal heads, etc., that came from the Sumerian side of our family. Do you understand?
Okay.
The original Egyptian side. That's why you see the people wearing masks of animals, etc., to denote the nature, obviously, of animal. So the animal nature within us as human beings. You understand? So yes, the cat or the feline, understood, played an interesting role. Obviously, yes, it was able to remove rodents and things as they do naturally. Do you understand? And it's a clean, intelligent animal. So we know that those rodents and things of that nature spread diseases. You understand?
Yes.
Ancient Egyptians perceived as the devil. So the cat, in that respect, was a positive entity in that regard, because it took out certain animals that spread diseases around society. It kept them under control. Once, say, you understand? So, in a certain aspect of our nature, it basically how they lived or how felines lived. Understand? Looking at their nature, it could be aligned with certain characteristics that dealt with how we as human beings lived. You understand? To help us to get better understanding of ourselves by looking at an animal and how they lived and how they observed the rules in nature, following their natural nature. You're looking externally at yourself to understand yourself better. Do you understand? And so then they use that information to tell certain stories in a certain way. So, for example, if you look at the makeup of for example, and this is where there's some confusion comes in, because they talk about the lion, for example, yes, which is a feline,
yes,
in the king of the jungle, yes.
Sure.
But lions don't live in jungles.
No, they don't.
They live in plains and savannas.
Yes.
So that original cat observation, do you understand, really started with the panther.
Yes.
And when you look at we go back further, that then ties into us wearing, leopard skins, you understand, in terms of the cheetah. But the cheetah also is a type of panther, which is what's what I'm looking for? Is a albino version of the panther. You understand? Because when you look at a panthers and jaguars, etc., they have spots as well. It just happens to be that there's melanin in between, you understand, where those spots feature.
Yes.
And so what that's telling you, when you look at Bess and other characters wearing cheetah skins, you understand, and things of that nature, that's telling you also, or giving some indication of who they're over. Understand? Because there's a stage before you get to a leopard, a cheetah. Even the leopard was considered, you look at the word leopard or leopard, it was considered to be, by those who named it, the cross between a lion and the word pard, if you look up in etymology, means panther. So it seemed to be a cross between those. Understood?
Yes.
After looking at the colours, the black would denote power energy, and more powerful energy as blackness, 9. Understand? Versus the lighter elements that would be, understand, slightly weaker in power.
Yes.
Yeah, so you get that combination of the two. So anytime you're seeing an animal used, which is considered to be a symbolic representation, it means something. In order to follow that path through, you need to study that particular animal. Understand?
Yes.
How it ties into that deity. Understood? Understand? So, in essence, the lion's been used with a few, understand, deities, tying really all the way back to the original, which is Tefnut or Tefat, which represents moisture. She also has a depiction as a feline or feline depiction, and she represents mitochondrial DNA in one aspect of the symbolism associated with fishes. Okay, does that answer your question?
Sure. Can I answer my question, please?
Go ahead.
What happens to those who are doing harm to us Sabaeans, but they're not Sabaeans? What do Panafar do to them?
So are you talking about people who attack us in terms of...
Yes, and harm us and break into our house and, you know.
Okay, well, I think so. Okay, let's deal with it in a few different ways then. So, I don't know if you've got access to the 9 Ball as a book, but it's
no, I don't. No, dumb.
Okay, so maybe one to seek out, and so I think there's copies floating about. But the reason why it's quite a useful book is because it starts to, at least even the way back then, starts to set out the rules in the environment that apply to all creatures. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, and so it starts to apply those things of what, let's say, we were talking about earlier, when certain things are triggered, what then comes as a result. Because a lot of terminology is used, like what goes around comes around and things of that nature. So then people are thinking, well, okay, you've done that to that person, then that's going to come back around to you. And it doesn't always happen. Do you understand? I mean,
yeah.
You know, people who are doing wicked things in this society quite often win. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, or we get money, whatever the case may be. You understand? The drug dealer is the new superhero now in certainly in a lot of black and other media. So so it's understanding the rules that exist and what's coming people's way in that regard. Also versus what you are doing to protect yourself. You understand? So yeah, a lot of the time why we find ourselves probably in harm's way in a lot of situations is because our protection, right, and we're spiritually weak. So, as we've said sort of in this class, you have to really establish an altar, which has got pictures of your 4 generational ancestors on, for those you can get pictures of, and establish a permanent connection with Panatharu also through your ancestry. So there are forces there that you then put into play that add that layer of protection in your day-to-day life. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you being absent of that or calling upon the wrong names can cause problems where you're invoking problems to yourself. You then not activating, do you understand, what would be your personal burglar alarm, for example, you understand, by connecting, deploying that means that you're putting yourself in situations, as you see, unknowingly at times where things are working against you, but you're in there unprotected. Do you understand? So this is part of what the Nagaru, or you understand, Sabian needs to put in place and establish, because you are moving in an environment where you're going to expect or you're going to attract adverse forces, particularly when you are on that esoteric or spiritual journey. Do you understand?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Where the Freemasons show you the hand holding the pendulum, which swings from one side to the other. You understand? And this is what happens.
Sure.
For example, they decide to be, I'm going to give up smoking, drinking, I'm going to be ultra positive or whatever. And what happens is the pendulum swings aggressively in one direction. But by the rules of natural law, is it going to swing back in the other direction with equal force? Understood? So a person has to understand that if they start praying today, there's going to be forces that they attract that are going to want to stop that. You understand? So therefore, you need to expect, you understand, or be ready for that to come, and to the point where, you understand, you are doing it so often on a regular enough basis where that pendulum swing is not extreme. It's virtually not moving from left to right, because now you've established it as a positive habit in your life. Understand? So in order to get to that point or position, you need to put things in place around you that protect you from these adverse forces on a permanent basis. And one of the ways of doing that is establishing that connection with your ancestors. There are prayers, obviously, in the Gold Book and different types of things that invoke protection around you as an individual. Having a positive mentality is also a way to be away from those adverse forces. So even if adversity comes, you still are able to approach it with a positive mentality. This is one of the characteristics of those elders, that even in adversity, they retained a positive mentality. And as the rules allow, and this is why it's important to know how to use them correctly, as the rules allow, direct, you understand, forces of people who are attacked. Now, you have to be careful around how you utilize that. You can't say, for example, to one of your ancestors, kill that person. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that in itself can invoke or trigger things that can come back against you as an individual. You understand? So you can't break those rules. And for even if somebody was against it, for example, if you attack a person just for the fact of the color of their skin, for example, you understand? So sometimes you hear these people justifying why they should date person. But they used to rape our women in slavery. So I'm just going with white girls now because, I mean, that's what they used to do to us in slavery. Well, that invokes a violation of the code of race. You understand? So
Yes.
So that can come back upon the person and affect not only them but their offspring as well. But you have to understand how these rules work and how you direct. As I say, there are prayers in our books, Gold Book in particular, that deals with adverse forces. But the Panatharu have a different type of mentality. They don't forgive and they don't forget. So when you're talking and you're invoking something against an enemy, understood, oftentimes they're talking about, well, wipe out the person, wipe out all their children, wipe out their seed, wipe them out of existence. Yeah, so you're not going to do that on a person who, you know what I mean, you fell out because they owed you £100. You understand what I'm saying? So even though it may be causing you some difficulty, you can't use the power, that kind of power, you understand, on that type of situation.
But they stole my cat.
Well, I can't speak to that situation, but obviously when you're in that society, you understand? You need to rules. First instance, I suppose, use the general rules for the society you're in. But there's a Gold Book prayer, isn't it, for things that are lost. So those who have put it into practice may find it, well, certainly can convey that it works very successfully because you're tapping into all, isn't it, in existence.
Sure.
Nothing can be lost in it. You understand? In really, when you think about it. So that's maybe one thing that you need to think about putting into practice or find that prayer. I think it's number 4 or 5. I can't remember. Sorry, excuse me, not this number. It's number 5. You understand? Prayer 5 in the Gold Book. For lost items. Yeah.
Tower. I let someone else answer the question.
All right, appreciate that. Okay.
All right then.
All right.
Buddy.
Any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, so sorry, I cut myself off there. So let's finish off freaks and the perfect creature. So we were understanding, say, how this liquid crystalline characteristics in nature of certain properties of substances, as I say, enables us to receive and convey, even transform energy in many different ways. So we want to walk through this Patarak called the prism, a few pages. Let's see what we get to before we finish round 4. And then just tie it back into what's been talked about in Freaks and the Perfect Creature. So a little bit of reading from me. So just stay focused and stay away. So 1, Nikum, Musbatu or Nwapu, my beloved children of life and living. So note the greeting there. Yeah, life, living. Yeah, life is a burning process. We understand this. Yeah, breathing in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide. 2, children of life, of Ka Raye, Ray, the sun. 3, the life-giving force of this planet. 4, Nwapu, understand, children of Unawap, yeah, or we can say that now upgraded. Musbatu, understood, yeah, children of Wu-Sabat. Know yourself physically and spiritually, know your breath of life, I should say. 5, what is your physical life and can it be eternal in the flesh? Yeah, so the master asks us rhetorical questions to consider. 6, first, my children, let me speak of birth and the living being. 7. In relation to outformation, light and sound. 8. You know this cycle of colors. The Khamat Noir, black light, is seen as a glowing violet light. So it's important as well. So here, definitions. Remember, we were talking about this earlier, how our study is going to help us to inform us of how things are defined in Wu-Sabat. Because black light, if we just took it with people, light is black or whatever the case may be, well, how is that possible? So you know it's in the violet range there before you then step into what? Ultraviolet, outside of the visible range. So black light is still perceived with the person's eyes. So, for example, when you are in a dark place, for example, where it seems like there's no light, and you open your eyes, it takes a moment, doesn't it, yeah, for your eyes to adjust, to be able then to see in the dark, because the rod cells on your iris are reacting to something called visual purple. So that's what enables you to see in the dark. Yeah? So here it's explained to us that this black light that we're able to detect, this is what it relates to. So you know these cycles of colors. The black, the Khamat Noir, black light, is seen as a glowing violet color. 9. All chaotic lights that exist on the physical realm emerge from the pale white light in creation, from peace to chaos. So light is associated with chaos as opposed to darkness associated with supreme balance. Now 10, or peace. 10, called the rays or light becomes separated by a washar or prism. 11, a prism is a solid whose two ends are similarly equal, of parallel rectilinear figures, and whose sides are parallelograms. Transparent body of this form, usually triangular ends by which light can be reflected. 12, prismatic or prism shape of color is produced by refraction through a prism, producing a rainbow-like effect. 13, a rainbow is an arc of prismatic colors formed in the sky by the sun's rays. 14, rays are single lines or narrow beams of light, heat, or any set of radiating lines. 15, to radiate is to emit rays, radiation, transmission of heat, and or light, radiance, brightness. So when somebody's talking about radiation, maybe this is a thing for us to think. So the sun is radiating energy, isn't it? It's emitting energy out from that source, understood, and the different colors, for those who help understanding that we perceive those colors to be, are by those particles moving at a certain speed in darkness. Do you understand? Slowest being red, as we explained earlier, highest being blue, certain color. Understood? So these particles are moving through. Now, they're seen to be moved as waves, understood? But when we read emotional energy, actual fact, that informs us that no, light energy moves in actuality in straight lines, but in actuality, dark matter is having impact on these particles, and therefore, imagine like a car, you're driving in a car, for example, across a rough surface, you basically feel that through the steering wheel. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the evidence of dark matter, which is associated with the mother form of basic energy. So basic energy, difference between basic energy imparts no force, or does emit, imparts no force, it doesn't move, which is seemingly the antipathy of energy. But it's one of the reasons why light is restricted. These particles are restricted at traveling beyond light speed at 186,272 miles per second. Do you understand? So that's restricting that speed. And so within that range, you've got particles moving at different speeds, and therefore, are perceived as having different colors. But radiated out, and we'll see in this instance, we're talking about the sun, you understand? But those particles, when they're put through a prism, can be broken down into 7 colours being described in the rainbow, as you see between the range of, let's say, blue and red. Now, so the primary colours are in there, saying blue, red, and yellow. The primary colours are that, and within that, I suppose, those vibrations, the primary colours are the only real colours that exist. Everything else is a combination of the two. So 2 or 3 or combination of 2 of those mixtures. So let's look here again. So chaos, disorder, confusion, state of the universe after physical creation by the birth of lights, white, brightness, the prism. You understand? So us as ancient Egyptians, and even now today as Musbatu coming back into knowledge of who we are, light is chaos. Yeah, and so we say this a lot, but it's good to remind everybody. When you look up in the so-called night sky, 90%, remember, 90% of all existence is darkness. Only what we see in terms of planets, suns, comets, all these different things out there. Tremendous, some of these suns inside. Remember, the Earth fits inside the sun. Our planet Earth sits inside the sun 1.2 million times over. You understand? It's considered to be a small sun. So these are tremendous in size, but they only make up 10% of all existence. You understand? Only make up 10%. That darkness then breaks down to 76% dark energy versus 24% dark matter. Understood? So we live, you understand, or we are darkness. Yeah? Light represents chaos, yeah, to us. You understand? And because it's to us, that means that's what it is. You understand? Because we were here first. You understand? Yeah? So, let's see what it is. Each color vibrates on its own and is a unique property in creation. 18. The violet ray is a secret of alchemy and transformation, transmutation, and metamorphosis. Yes, we're seeing these higher colors. And so now when you look at maybe some of these different orders, and you look now, you respect, yes, so you look again and look at some of the symbolism that you see, look at those colors again and see whether you see some of these expressed in some of their symbols or what they're wearing. You understand? Yeah, look again and see what you're looking at here. See what it's a symbol of. 19. As a child does in the womb. 20. It means change, growth. The Arabic word al-khamia is from ancient Egyptian word khamat, black. 21. Arabic is ham. In Hebrew, it is ham. Both is black, as in Ham, son of Noah, Nuh, in their religion. 22. Taken from Egypt, and the word khalas, placenta. 23. Khalas is an organ connecting the mother, parent, with the transforming mammal in the womb, the physical lifeline. 24. The violet children are born of the black light. The amber children are born of the white light. 25. Violet is a frequency. It acts on matter and substance of lower frequencies. 26. And being energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed from one state to another. 27. And thoughts also are triggered by emotions or energy in motion. 28. So in fact, all energy ever used, which includes thoughts and emotional energy, exists eternally. And so we're getting this now, or we have to kind of expand our concept for those who have been studying this doctrine and those maybe new to it, is that there's not some starting point where things necessarily came into existence. Existence is before creation. You understand? And there's no such, it's kind of click your fingers situation. Things then magically come forth. What you're learning is that there are energies always existed. There is no start or end point to it. You understand? But has always been. Understood? Now, has there always been motion? Well, not necessarily, because motion came out of stillness as things started to slow down in vibration, as ordered by poles. In a sense, so we have growth as a result of motion out of stillness, within existence. Understood? But we have to take our minds back to say that no, there's this idea that click your fingers and things just magically come into existence is not how things are. And so you understand that energy can't be destroyed. It can only be changed in polarity. Understood? And that, as I say, you're seeing here that it's always, in a sense, existed as far as we understand it. It's known to be, you understand? And there's no outside of that. Yeah, so this is one of these kind of key features where we're starting to sort of tweak and change and challenge some of our perception, as I say, of what we know, how things came around. Say creation, to reiterate that, you understand, growth into form or system. You understand? In Wu-Sabat, not click your fingers and things magically come about. Destruction is change in form or system. Yeah, or destruction of that original creation, original growth. Now, let's see what this is here, because it's some key stuff. So 29, in quantum facts, matter is a form of energy. Atoms aren't material substance in all. 30, they are merely small packets of orbs of energy. 31, even when an electron is described as a particle, when its wave function has collapsed, it remains a form of energy. 32, this energy of everything is in the form of waves that can be encoded with information from outformation, just as cells. So what this has explained to us is that basically we have this kind of delineation, which helps us really for understanding purposes, between matter and energy. So when you get to hydrogen, which is the first, I suppose, point they thought of existence, from 1 down to 99, named after some of their deities or people who discovered them or whatever. So 1 down to 99. Yeah, but on the energy side, on the etheric side, we have E1 to E99. So they have the energy counterpart on the etheric side would be E1 down to 99. Now, obviously, where that delineation works at a certain level, understood, it's really down to the instrumentation of what is used to define it by those who are measuring it. Do you understand? Because basically, obviously, when they smash 2 or 4 hydrogen atoms together, do you understand what I'm saying, from the cyclotron, they found out that hydrogen was not the first point of existence, that it was made up of smaller particles, quarks, biapsials, so on and so forth. Do you understand? So the world of things, but by any tools of the ability to measure them, you couldn't weigh them. Do you understand? So I feel like I say this all the time in class. I'm hoping either for those who I keep saying it, it's a good reminder. For those who've never heard it before, how things are denoted, obviously, to be registered within existence and are not theoretical particles, is because they have a weight. Yes. So if all things in existence, so if you think about your bathroom scales, yes, if you put a feather on it, a feather is not going to move those bathroom scales. But you stand on it, the bathroom scale is going to move. So if, by way of the measuring tool, the fact that there's movement of the little dial, that would denote that the thing exists. Yeah? So that's how they're classifying it in this society. It has some kind of weight. But what this is explaining to us, because we are ontologists, but we're also animists who deal with the fact that we descend from a soul force first. And so our origin is from energy, not from the material matter. The body, as we see it, is the vessel or vehicle that allows that energy to exist within this plane in obviously a constrained form. Understood? So the body's the car, you understand? It's not the person driving the car. Understood? Yeah, there's separation. When you are in the car, you and the car are one because you're controlling the car, but you're not the car because you can step in and out of it, so on and so forth. Understood? So in a similar way, the soul, which is linked to the mental, obviously is the one inside of the vehicle or vessel, you understand? And so that's the real us, you understand, in terms of who we are. So where the delineation between matter and energy really is distinguished is probably based on the technological skill of who is recording. Yeah, so for our understanding for where we are at now, we say, okay, well, 99 elements, hydrogen down to Einsteinium, that's where matter starts from. Understood? But then go beyond that now in quantum world, understood? And that's where energy starts from, yeah? But, which is then transformed into matter, understood? What this is explaining is it's all energy, yeah? So it's not just matter that matters to us from a light perspective, because we're basing everything, broadly speaking, on what exists in our physical environment and from our perspective. But it all matters, but it's all energy, in the same for simplistic sake. So, 32. This energy of which everything is composed is in the form of waves that can be encoded with information from outformation just as cells. So we understand that in this form, yes, programmable items can be placed within, understand, these waves, and basically as outformation, which we can receive in the form of information. Do you understand? So how we're ordered and structured, when we receive it, it can carry messages for us. Do you understand? Because of how it's structured, as you see, in the form of collagen. But as you know, melanin is what? It absorbs light energy. Certain functions. So these waves have an infinite capacity for receiving outformation. So infinite, that's an unlimited capacity of receiving outformation as black, and information as white is limited to this realm. The orbs of birth at 6 months in the womb departs at physical death of white people or Caucasoids as the little white orb or flame. So I think in Bartarak, the ghost, I think we did in Bartarak, the ghosts cover this, which is where their fairy stories come from. You understand? Because it really ties into some spirit elemental beings that are part of the Caucasian birthing process, which inhouse the physical body of the individual or the baby at 6 months in the womb. They refer to it as Corriganis. You understand? Where they get the fairy story from. So spirits in housing them at 6 months of that birthing process as that white orb or fire. You understand? Yeah, which is different to us. Now, can we in-house spirits at our birthing process? Well, they can attach themselves, spirit beings, to a person when they're born, so as an agaru, so which can accompany that person through their lives, but it's not necessarily a thing, as I say. It can encompass them, through their lives, which is why when a person says they're more spiritual, you have to understand that that really means less soulful. Because spirits are not natural nature, they are of natural nature. So you think about these kind of entities, different things of that nature. So when a person says they're more spiritual, what are they saying? And really what we're talking about as Nagari, we're becoming more soulful. Yeah, so our strength to the mental reservoir and its our ability to block out all other adverse forces and frequencies that we receive, to be focused on and stay in tune with Wu-Sabat. We've really become more soulful. Spiritual is part of the aspect of the journey, but spirits in-house soul. They are not. Spirits in-house things that are natural. They are not natural. Excuse me, let me say it again. Spirits in-house things that are of natural nature. They are not themselves of natural nature. Do you understand? So really we're becoming more soulful in terms of that we're not really, we use the word spiritual, but when you really sort of understand it, it's not necessarily what people think it is. So in their aspect of becoming more spiritual, they are in-house because they don't have, that soul. They are in-house by that orb within the birth process, in the sense that referred to as Korigans. 34. So in fact, all energy that's ever been used remains encoded with unique individual rays of light ending in violet light or black light. 35. Onto higher dimensional frequencies linked to spirit, Ba'ah to soul, Ka'ah to ether, Achach with golden children, Nagaru negroids. Yeah, so, introducing golden children to us now. Tutankhamun was the last iteration. The more significant iteration in the culture as the golden child. But in this day and time, you see now it is plural as golden children. You understand? And we read parts of that golden children. You see about an organized interception of our genome in order to upgrade us. You understand? Between 1973 and 2003. Yeah. So let's continue. So on into higher dimensional frequencies linked to spirit, Ba'ah to soul, Ka'ah to ether, Achach to golden children, Nagaru negroids. 36. Nagaru negroids have their own frequency signature or tone or vibration. This is a really powerful verse, 37. So 37 says, so Nagaru negroids are living beings, are packets of quantum energy as part of the entire all, constantly exchanging outformation to information with the inexhaustible energy of Ba'h B'ah, the all expanding. So that's a very important kind of verse to kind of focus in on, as we were talking about earlier, as this, or our ability, let's say, to be like batteries of existence. In the same way, transforming energy from one state into another. Do you understand? With no loss of any kind of power. You understand? As it's all about theirs. Ba'h B'ah, from Ba'ah. As part of what we say. We are parts of it all. We are all. And as we start to learn who and what we are in this dead time. Now, 38. It is also called, so something that people can look up. It is also called 0 point field and is described as an ocean of microscopic vibration in the space or ether. Understand? 39. A huge, is that what they call it? Ba'h B'ah. 39. A huge reservoir of mental to physical energy. 40. So like subatomic particles influence all other particles instantaneously over time and space. Yeah, so term for that, which has gone from my mind at the moment. Yeah, gone from my mind at the moment. In fact, let me just look it up. Any questions? A certain term for that, which is useful for people to look up. Any questions?
Yes, yes, there are. There's a question from Dermot, and the question is, has Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn broken down the Russia-Ukraine war that is going on now?
He has mentioned it, but it's, I'm not going to go into it right now. So he has mentioned it, yes. First, suffice to say, it's not our war. Stay out of their way. Yeah, I think that's the advice for now. Yeah. Any other questions?
Someone had their hand up, but they've lowered it now. So there are no further questions.
Right, just bear with me 1 second. I'm just trying to find that term support.
Oh, he's raised his hand again.
Oh, go ahead.
We have a raised hand from Peter. Okay, we have 2 raised hands now. Okay, Peter, what I'm going to do is to allow you to talk, and I'm going to ask you to unmute your microphone.
Wahabat, Nababkat, Amakaket, Peter King.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a class called Who and What Are You?
Yes.
By Dr. Malachi Z. Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn. He mentioned in a class, if I can remember the quote, he said, if the devil opens up the doorway against you, he will show no mercy. So you have to prepare yourself. Who is the devil today? Is he Nagawa? Is he Kokusu? And where is he today?
So when we talk about the devil, I suppose that's in just context. So the devil in Wu-Sabat is anybody who disrupts your definition of peace. Do you understand?
Yes.
The devil has a purpose as opposed to being a person. Do you understand? But obviously, in considering that, you have to look at a certain group of people.
Yes.
Their attention focused on our destruction. Do you understand? Maybe older versions of their particular race. Obviously, the younger people, the children being birthed today, are not necessarily of that particular mindset. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's why it's difficult to then make blanket statements. Hence why the term "no one wins a race in racism" exists. Do you understand? Because you're seeing a lot of different races go against those old kind of 6C for 3 ether ghost stational mentalities that would do that work. But in ancient times, that definition was relating to diseases, hence the term, even in their discourse, cleanliness is next to godliness. So the opposite of that would be unhygienic practices, do you understand? Because things that you can't see, bad bacteria, for example, diseases, viruses, etc., you can't see them, do you understand? So that was considered to be the devil to us. And obviously with the Adamites, that was certain groups of extraterrestrials, even some society on Earth, trying to breed that and put it in a person or into a people. Do you understand? So when you see the term "he is a disease," that is because they were developed in a war that took place, which the remnants of that is still taking place today, to kill off a certain group of extraterrestrials called draconians. So they poison their food source by introducing a disease into the genome there of this Adamu. Do you understand? And so therefore, that's where the association with the devil goes to that particular race, because it was associated with a disease. You understand? Or disease in a manifestation of disease as a form of germ warfare, which we would call today. You understand? To wipe out a certain people. But long answer short, basically, devil is anybody who disturbs your definition of peace. So it's an attribute. You understand? Which can be a person. It can be so a number of different things. But as a force, understood, but certainly not with 2 horns and a 4 tail. Understand? That's not one of the definitions of the devil that we ascribe to. So one of the things as well, probably for your own study, is when you see in the books, when you see the word devil, look at what the Sabaic word is saying. So it's because you're going to get different words of it being used. So study it from that perspective to gain also even a better.
I have an ice cream van.
What's being spoken to, in the background, it's not.
Yes.
No problem. Okay, that's such a question dealt with. Next question then, please. Thanks.
Tawata.
Thank you. Okay. Next question.
Right. There's another raised hand. This is Nasuru. You have your hand raised, so I'm going to allow you to talk. If you have a question, if you'd unmute your microphone, you can ask your question.
Oh, okay. Rahubat, you can hear me now?
You have it. You have it. That's it.
Yeah, Rahubat. Nabab Nehez.
Rahu.
A quick question.
Is it?
I'm now aware of that the people being spoken in the early part of the Bible were Karkatu, Adamites.
Yes, go ahead. Tell it.
Right. So at the point when the barytheric gland was removed, are we making reference to the Adamites? Yeah. The Adamu having their barytheric gland removed.
Right. So, good question. So, obviously, as you know, in their story, understand?
Yeah.
Story. Yes, you're talking about the removal of the ring, which obviously in their story is not really removing them, but tampering with the genes, because the purest form of blood is in the marrow, which is inside of the actual. So purest form of blood is in the bone marrow itself. You understand?
Well, we're told.
Alteration of genes. 4 generations later, yes, led to a being born by the name of Enos.
Enos, that's right. Yeah, perfect.
Then man began to call upon, the name of the Lord. You understand? Or call upon the Lord. So prayer was introduced. So prior to that change, they had direct connection with their extraterrestrial overlords. They could speak into their heads, correct?
As in the Anunnaki?
Yes, and the Pleiadians. There's 2 sets of beings in their story. Do you understand? So,
the Pleiadians and who?
The Anunnaki, who you just described. Who basically their name is Anuna. The ones who came here are known as Anunnaki. Understood?
Okay, yes.
Right. So, insofar as that story progresses, as I say, there was a disconnect then that took place, isn't it? Because this Enos person now had to pray. They didn't have a direct connection. You understand?
He was a mortal man.
But as they classify it as. So if you look at then, when you go further into their stories, how were they communicating? Well, we go down to Moses' time, according to the book, and they had to communicate through the Ark of the Covenant, correct?
The Ark of the Covenant, okay, like a transmitter and receiver.
Right.
Receiving device.
Right. So that device, or this ability for them to communicate, was internal, activated at one point, and then disconnected, you understand, by the time you get down to Enos, correct? And then now they have to use an exterior mode of communication, either the Ark of the Covenant, or by now prophets being sent, you understand, and different people. Yes, Enoch, a person got taken up, you understand, and was transformed back. They have those characteristics. So in their story, them as had some connection with their overlords, and then that was removed from them or taken away. You understand? Now, when you apply it to us, so putting their story to one side, because that's now was a certain stage of learning, you understand? And we thought, okay, well, that was us, but then it's not us, because we're not Adamites in that context, you understand? Because the word Adam, meaning red or ruddy, understood, is talking about, you understand?
Adam,
Now, when you apply it to us, understood, right, what that is showing is that through in our journey as children of the Natharu, what's happened is that when people intermixed with our genes at various different points, understood, it untuned us. You understand? And so what happened is that you see there's an interception in our genes with the Anunnaki. Do you understand? Which is why we have both natures within us, because the being known as Enki mixed in with the Sands people in Africa. Understood? Wow. Yeah. And so what's happened is that various points of intermixing has untuned us. Now, when we were purely in the image and after the likeness of the Natharu, having that baraffery gland, the baraffery gland secreted a substance within our bloodstream, which they refer to as mafkhuzat, you understand, or some people refer to as liquid gold.
Say again, sorry.
Mafkhuzat, you understand?
Mafkhuzat.
Yes, or liquid gold.
And it's referred to as liquid gold, okay.
Right. It's got other names, philosopher's stone, do you understand? Different names it has in different cultures. Do you understand? So the Nagaru, the Pa-Natharu, our Ether overlords, the characteristics, when they had that gland, so when they were incarnated physically, they had Mafkhuzat in their bloodstream. Understood? Okay. And so that in us, as one of our, understand, as part of our endocrinal glandular system, understand, also secreted that liquid gold into our bloodstream, as well as obviously, as you know, the characteristics gave us access to our higher senses. Do you understand? Yeah. So over time, intermixing, understood, has caused that to be removed, because that direct connection, remember, gives us access where we're starting to affect higher aspects of ourselves or different races or higher forms of us in higher realms of existence. So cutting off that connection, do you understand? It's like taking this diseased Nagaru off of the network. Do you understand?
So will I have this? Will I have this right if I say that? So it wasn't actually surgically removed from Nagaru. We lost the potential of utilizing the high senses from the baraffery gland through mixing. Am I right in saying that?
Yes. So as people have intercepted our genes, we've lost that connection. Do you understand? That biblical story doesn't relate to our story.
Oh, okay.
It relates to our story. Understand? So, but what you do find is in actual facts number 18, understood?
Is that mitochondria and DNA?
So mitochondria DNA is different to this liquid gold I'm talking about in the baraffery gland. So something.
Okay.
Something. Now, just trying to guide to the page.
Have you got that scroll there with you? #18.
So actual facts number 18, you understand? Yeah, you want to read from, there's an incident or event that took place.
I'm not sure what scroll that is. What scroll is #18 again?
Tone, sound, DNA, molecules, and vibrational frequency.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought I didn't have it. Yes.
Okay, so if you look that up, that particular scroll, and then you read from about page 16. I
haven't got that as yet, but I'll take note of that. So that's page 16.
Yeah, seek it out. What you're going to find is there's an incident that took place around about 9 billion years ago, which was the collapse of Sirius C.
Okay, well,
right? I'm just giving you some highlights. So the collapse of Sirius C is again a similar thing to what we're talking about with the in a higher level. You understand, with the collapsing of a sun that basically blocked off direct access to these Pa-Natharu. Understood? Yeah, and themselves will only descend down to the fourth plane of existence, which is the mental plane. So that incident that took place was related to an incident that took place with the collapse of Sirius C. So we've seen it in our story happen before, which locked us off from direct access to the Nathar. But what they did is that they left an ascension pathway for us in the form of HAR1, which is obviously human accelerated region.
The HAR1 gene.
The HAR1 gene. You understand?
Which is carbon, no?
HAR1 is not carbon. It's a chromosome. So it's an aspect on the chromosomes. It's an extension of a chromosome. Length and carbon is a sixth element. Do you understand? So a Ha1 is a specific gene that links us to the Natharu, and also the planet itself is as a corresponding planet called Risk, and Ha1 enables us to jump between this planet and Razak or Risk by way of that link. You understand? It's why we have accelerated over and above in intelligence the animal kingdom, because the Ha1 gene, understood, is extended in human beings. Now, we were the only race to have Ha1.
Nagara.
Yes, we're the only ones to have Ha1. But through mixing, other races now have Ha1.
Oh.
Do you understand? So this is why I was saying to you that when you read the story or the event in Actual Facts 18, you're seeing as a process where we were cut off, because we're now the people who then didn't want to advance, and so I'll allow you to read the story in your own time. They were now, because of their link etherically to those who advanced to higher states of existence, they was affecting those higher realms. So they had to cut the connection. Do you understand? As I say, it's like taking a computer off of the network because it's got a virus in it. Do you understand? So in a similar way, yes, the removal of that baraffery gland, do you understand what I'm saying, is a form of taking that disease Nagaru off of the network. You understand? Those who are then perfect themselves and are proving themselves worthy, they would then reinstate it back, but it wouldn't obviously be placed in the same area. It would now be in the submental, isn't it, beneath the chin?
When they have it, when it's replaced, when it's reinserted.
Yeah, but you understand, if you read, there's another actual fact called 18 plus 18 plus 1. Yeah,
they're the two that I haven't actually got at the minute, but I know it's.
Okay. So that's on your to-do list to get those.
Yes.
So what you realise is that when Inky, the being named Inky or Nudimud, when they at one time the Anunnaki in the form of, it was the agreeable reptoids, understand, they worked with us as ancient Egyptians in the form of Ptah, to formulate this germ warfare to eradicate these draconians. I don't want to go too far off the story to confuse you.
They come to us in the form of by way of nature. In the form of Ptah.
No, in this instance, I'm talking about specific. Sorry, not Ptah. Excuse me. I am Hotep. Excuse me. Yeah. Let me just.
Okay. Cool.
I am Hotep. So I am Hotep and Nudimud work together to manipulate the mitochondrial gene, so it could be placed within the cells and the body of the Adamites without being detected. You understand? And so one of the characteristics of that is that they reshaped it into a circular form. Now, separate to that story, what that characteristic showed was that mitochondrial DNA could be programmed with instructions that could be triggered from a dimension that we were not in physically.
Okay.
So they could trigger changes within the human genome, you understand, that could be triggered from other dimensions. But here it would appear, it wouldn't be detectable. It would appear invisible. So if you note, certain changes within our genome have been triggered by the Natharu at certain points of our growth. Hence, women being the first to speak, you understand, 54,000 years ago. You understand? And both first, men drew first. Do you understand?
Yes.
So there are things along the way that can be triggered. You understand? Hence why the baraffery gland can be replaced or triggered for it to regrow again.
Okay, and is it situated in the cerebellum, which is in the hippocampus?
Not now placed in the cerebellum area, because obviously the way the genes have tumbled forward, it would have to be placed in the submental.
Okay.
It would be too dangerous to place in the hippocampus area, so based in the submental. So the point which I'm making, which, as I say, when you do your rereading around the subject, is that basically at a certain point where we've become hybrid, or there's been some interception in our genes, they've taken us off the network, you understand? And then basically there's a process to then re-engage, which we're going through at the moment. That's just a way of shortening.
When they say they've taken us off the network, who are you referring to when you say they?
So we don't have our full faculties as complete beings again. We have to earn it. Now it has to be determined, well, who's who on the planet, because all of the genes have been mixed up. You understand? So who is who? Are you truly a child of the Natharu? You understand? I.e., moving more towards the violet end, or are we in traits of the on the amber side, the children of the amber light? You understand? Is the children of fire, isn't it? Where the term British comes from. Yeah, British. Barif, covenant. Ish means fire. Understand? Just basically saying children of the covenant of fire. So they're illuminated ones, but on the fire side, not on the black light side.
Oh, okay. So can you repeat that for? Can you repeat that for me? Brit means
British. So Brit. The part of British is from the Hebrew word baref. It means covenant.
Oh, okay, baref. Yes.
Yeah, covenant, which ties into bara, which means food or bread, even the root of it. You understand? But it means covenant. Yeah. So ish. You have ish. It can be male in Hebrew. You understand? And ishor means female. But the word phonetically is also ish, also means fire.
Okay.
So what you're saying
we're talking about a covenant of fire.
Yeah, covenant of fire. You understand? So when you're saying British, you're saying the covenant of the children of fire. I.e. the Illuminati or the Illuminated. But by the amber light, not the black light. Because we are also illuminated. You understand? Because our electric is lit. Yes? So but we deal with the black light, not the amber light or violet light, as you see there. You understand?
Yes.
So this is why, all these see a new person coming in, let's say they were coming in now, understood? Who never had access to the old schools, they wouldn't read the Bible and the Quran and the Torah.
So,
do you understand? So they would never encounter that story. We only encounter it, nothing to explain it, because we went through those schools in terms of the removal of the spell from us. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
But the new person coming in, so for example, let's say they was coming in, there is absolutely, if they never encountered a Bible, a Quran, or these books before, they don't need them to understand our story. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because they would just be coming in like the Madrasa Tashrak, for example. Now the new ones coming in, they only deal with actual facts, Bartarak. You understand? Master secrets. They're not even interested in most schools. It's only for us really to. So we're now. You have to take that understanding. You have to drop it. Okay, where's that in the actual facts in terms of how it's being retold and symbolism. So that's where it's sort of leading you in that direction. What we can see is that, you understand, where certain interaction with certain other races has taken place, it has untuned us. You understand what I'm saying? It's untuned us.
Yes.
So we're no longer what we were originally. Do you understand? Remember, we are a hybrid of an
original version.
Right, of the Sans people, understood? So remember, because those original at some point were their makeup was from TNA, thyrose nucleic acid. Thyrose nucleic acid. Thyrose nucleic acid gave birth to ribonucleic acid. Ribonucleic acid gave birth to deoxyribonucleic acid. So we have TNA, RNA, and then DNA. Yeah, so atom, amun.
RNA changes, can metamorphosize, it can change.
Well, RNA is the real.
Can transform.
Yeah, RNA is the real intelligence. But all DNA is transient, it's not fixed. You understand? So 24% of those 24,000 genomes. You understand? Part of it is transient. It's changing all the time, basically based on the environment. It's changing now by you listening to my voice. You understand? So environment. So the point being made is that we were a different configuration of the original. We are the evolutionary descendants. Some people have called it evolutionary tar or evolutionary tar. You understand? So as those genes have tumbled forward, we have changed. You understand? What's the difference between us and the original? Okay, there's a mixture that's taken place, isn't there? An intermixing. You understand?
Yes.
Just altered. And now the new being has to be reshaped to now be plugged back in again, as we've been talking about here, into the complete change in natural environment. Planet's changing, universe is changing, we're getting extra suns in our solar system. And so all of us need to change now to link back in, which is what all the spiritual practice, so on and so forth.
This is it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so definitely check out those books. That'll help you to get to that understanding in more detail of the subject that you're looking at. You understand?
Yeah, totally.
It is confusing because
you've actually added clarity. You've actually added clarity for me, which has made it less confusing now.
Okay, and what another book you want to refer to is part 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I Was There, Which Was Here.
Oh, okay, I'm aware of that scroll.
Yeah, so that's a scroll and it's an audio tape. So listen to that. That helps set the context. So which ties to another book to say, why did God create the devil? Do you understand? A Master Secret series. So Supreme Mathematics series book.
Oh,
all that context. Yeah. Okay.
No
problem. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, there is. We have a question from Divine Feminine. So, Divine Feminine, if you wish to ask a question, I'm allowing you to talk. If you don't mute your microphone, you may ask your question.
Tawatak Zamal. My question is related to verse 36, where it says Nagari Negroids have their own frequency signature or tone of vibration. What is that frequency signature tone or vibration?
Good question. Welcome. So basically, that's reflected in the fact that we have melanin. So in tones, DNA and vibration, again, actual fact part of that, we're given a frequency which is in resonance with that. Understand? On page 5. Understand? Yeah, which I will. Let me read the verse. So from verse 27, actual facts number 18, tone, sound, DNA, molecules, vibrational frequencies. And it says, 27, it's mortals' imperfections that block them from being open to true and full mental powers. Once transformed, they will once again use both sides of their brain in perfect balance and be at one with Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn again and the universe and its field of resonance, or a rhythmonic frequency of this universe is F sharp, or 1.655 times 1043 hertz, the key resonance. Once the full use of the brain and barafry gland is restored, there will be an interaction under the influence of F sharp, actually allowing the transference of energy, sound, vibration and colors, images and voices beyond this realm. Understand? So although the frequency here is not given, what it's saying is that the resonance, so basically when you talk about resonance, it is in tune. So when something's in resonance, it basically causes that frequency to multiply in power. Understand? Because it's in resonance with it. And so that frequency range is linked to the one given in tones. You understand? Once we're completely understood. Yeah. But our melanin is key, in addition to obviously barafry gland and the way our body's ordered. But importantly, that is what is linked to us by race. So when somebody is, the reason why you can't choose your religion is because if you imagine that range of what Wu-Sabat is, you understand, or 9 ether was there first. And we manifested down, isn't it, to become, yes, how we are as Nagaru people, as a manifestation as children of the sun. So if you think about 9 ether as in a gaseous state, when it's slowed down in vibration, its manifestation in physical form was the Nagaru female, do you understand? And then later on male, correct?
Okay.
So you can't, so there's no choice in that. We came from that frequency range. So in trying to get back to being realigned with it or in resonance with it, that's the Wu-Sabat or the cultural characteristics that give you the steps to get yourself back in tune so that we're permanently aligned with it. That's not a choice. We came from that. So a white person can't, for example, tune into that frequency range because they don't have the apparatus, i.e. melanin, in order to connect to the ranges which are from 3 to 6 and then from 6 to 9, because they only have 1/3 of the energy, you understand, characteristics of the original. Do you understand? Whereas the 9, you understand, is the complete, isn't it? So somebody who is 6 ether is missing 1/3 of the original forces that made up the original. So they can't, and they don't have the apparatus to communicate to that higher level of frequency, only going through a Nagaru. So their religion is then, or is that viewpoint opinion, everything culturally is then linked to their frequency range, which they or their ancestors existed upon. Do you understand? So this is why you can't choose, because it's literally that connection is in your DNA and RNA. It's in your genes. It's who you are. Understand? And so the purpose of that religious practice or culture or Wu-Sabat is to then realign you back with that frequency tone. Do you understand? Yeah.
Sure.
So 1 point or page 5, you understand? Yeah, is what that frequency range is in resonance with.
And that's the etheric resonance frequency force, correct? That's kind of what we're talking about.
Right, but you are etheric and physical. So everything that you're doing is to align your physical and your etheric with that tone. Do you understand?
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
So it's not one or the other. It's you're making yourself complete again. So your physical body should optimize that energy frequency. Do you understand? It should be magnified in you. You understand? So that everything about you, your cells, the way you walk, how you speak, you understand? Our expression is also going to be in tune with that resonance frequency. Do you understand? Because how we access information. What the special thing is about the Amun the Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn or the master teacher, and this is what the purpose is that he is able to discern between the vibrational rates of the different planes. You understand? And so therefore, those children who are those golden children, by him now touching that individual ritualistically, you understand, is able, the cells within them or the composite parts of the molecules within them now are able to be in resonance to understand, okay, this is the physical plane. This is the plane of force. This is the spiritual plane. This is the mental plane. Because the makeup of them or the particles within those planes are vibrating at different frequency rates. Do you understand? So in order to transmute or change from one to the other, you need to know, well, what the differences are. And so those children having that ability would know from interaction with the Amun the Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn of how to do that transformational change. And then their purpose then is to realign, as I say, those etheric elements of us which are down, trapped in these lower forces, and place them back where they should be, in the 6 and 9 ether range. So they're only, sorry, not 6, 7, 8 and 9 ether range, which is only the forces of our agreeable ancestors.
Sure. So let me ask you this. I didn't mean to cut you off, but so we're taught in physics that gamma rays resonate at the very highest frequency. So if we're operating at our optimal, at our best, can we reach that plane or vibrate on that level of where gamma rays vibrate?
So
am I missing something?
No. So if you look at Man from Planet Risk, it was explained to you, isn't it, that some human beings, can reach up to, so beyond what you're calling those violet. So that ultraviolet spectrum, isn't it? Yeah, is where cosmic, up to gamma rays obviously exists. Do you understand? So even in our current physical state, understood, if we had our full faculties, we would be able to perceive gamma rays. However, our structure, no energy vibrational rate is limited to us. We're not stuck within a range. It's all of it we would experience.
Okay.
So we're not limited. It's only by way of, as you say, physics or physicality, i.e. what exists within the physical realm, is a certain stage of vibration. But your melanin takes you beyond that. Yeah, because you're a 9 ether being, so you vibrate across the whole of the spectrum. Do you understand? So that's beyond physical. In that emotional energy, it explains to us that we have not experienced, or nobody on this particular physical realm has experienced 7, 8, and 9 ether energy frequencies. Do you understand? So there's not a word in the language at the moment that would define those energies, which are finite forms of what we're calling gamma rays. Do you understand? And all these different types. They're just more finite forms of energy. Do you see what I'm saying? So we've not encountered them yet as we would understand it to be. This is why, as I say, that being is critical or important, because it's able to discern between those different frequency ranges, which you need to, or the individual needs to know in order to be able to transform, take you out of what is called physical into higher dimensions. Understood? Which you are linked to by way of your soul. You understand? This is what differentiates us from other people, isn't it? They don't have a link back to those original, we're going to use the word original loosely, those original forces.
Right.
They don't have that link back. Our soul is what, you understand, as a projection of the mental downwards, that's what links us back to those original forces. Therefore, we are that. You understand? Because we were part as things. You understand? Which have grown into what we are now at the lowest level of vibration. So the two things are interlinked with each other. You understand? Because your physical practice, let's say, enables you to have the esoteric connection, isn't it? Yeah. So everything about us, if we're going to be optimum, needs to be in resonance frequency with where Wu-Sabat is, or its station is, emitting that vibrational frequency in this universe. That's what tones gives you that frequency. But everything around us was in tune with that resonance frequency, i.e. the pyramid structures and the crystalline coverings, you understand? The way the streets were structured, to the way every building was, do you understand? All of this was designed to keep you personally, and also the environment in tune with Panatharu and Wu-Sabat as a resonance frequency in that regard. So this is changing our understanding of what race really means to us, because say you are synced in already, but we've become untuned because of our bad practices. We've been under religion and different things have taken us away from our natural way of living, because how we were born and the way we looked is already in tune. Do you understand? It's just that mentally we're not. So therefore, bad information, has created, you know what I mean, a different formation from what we were supposed to naturally be. Do you see that? Understand it? Yeah? Understood.
Yeah. Tawatak Zamaltak.
No problem. Antat Avia. Any other questions?
Yes. We have a question from Nasuru. I'm going to unmute, allow you to speak. And if you'd unmute your microphone, Nasuru, then you can ask your question. Nasuru, you are permitted to speak. Do you have a question?
Yeah. You know what? I'm thinking I'm the only Nasuru, as in not Nasaru, but Nasuru, on this platform. But I haven't actually asked another question.
Oh, it's just that your hand is raised.
Okay.
I'll lower it for you.
Yes, okay. Sorry, that must be by accident. Sorry.
That's not a problem. Not a problem.
Yeah, nadum.
There are no further questions. Oh, yes, there is. We do have another question from Cara. I'm going to allow you to speak. Cara, if you'd unmute your microphone on your device, then you can ask your question. If you just unmute your microphone, your device, your hand is still raised.
Hi. Thank you for having us. How, with an understanding of this information, how do you use it? Where's the mute? You just want me to do it, yeah? Okay.
What is your question, Cara?
You just type it in.
Yeah. One review.
Cara, do you have a question?
Yeah. That's what I'm for. Oh, that's it.
He's gonna call me Mark.
Okay, I think she hasn't realised that. So the question I think is typed.
Oh, it says that she can't unmute the microphone, but I just heard you, Cara. I just heard you speaking. See? I can hear you. Ask your question.
Angus, can you hear me now? Oh, yeah, brilliant. Hi, Hara. Quick question. Hi, all. If you have an understanding of this information, how do you get the energy, vampires, demonic entities? How do you remove them from your life, your livelihood going forward, to be able to maneuver in your true self, or truest of selves? And that's in employment, that's in self-employment, family, friends. How does one go about being able to remove them? And because I have an understanding of where this information, naturally, spiritually, we all do. But how does one remove the negative entities that are blocking your progress, and in love, in money, in, going forward, basically?
Good question, Cara. So there's a few things I think was touched on a bit earlier as well. So one of the things is that obviously you're not going to be able to remove them in the environment. Now when I say this, I say remove. What I'm saying is that you're going to encounter them. Obviously, how they affect you, or how you allow them to affect you, is, understand, within your gift to some degree to control. So what you'll have to do is you have to develop what they refer to as a psychic self-defense. So this is akin to, if you understand a high rope a tightrope walker who is, or he or she or whatever, is, sometimes you see them walking across the Niagara Fall. Absolutely crazy. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But in their mind, what they have done, see the word psychic, obviously, it means to lie. Understand the word psychic? Lie, yes? So you're lying to self. So what they're doing is they're lying to self to not see the tightrope. They're walking on ordinary ground. Do you understand?
Okay.
So that fools the body and the mind, etc., so that it doesn't encounter stress or, do you understand, of what you would experience normally if you were that high up, you understand, with your life on the line. So we have to learn to fool the brain, you understand, to not be subject to being caught in a way where basically we lower our vibration. So let's say, for example, somebody was messing with you at work or whatever, and you got angry. Understand? That anger potentially lowers your vibrational rate and leaves you open to be in-housed by certain forces, which might push you to do whatever, swear, different things, whatever. You might react in a certain way. Whereas you were operating at a certain frequency, knowing it was coming, you might have a mentality that says, well, those words can't affect me today, whatever the case may be. And so you're moving in a certain way where whatever games they try to play is not going to throw you off of your normal or natural balance. Do you understand what I'm saying? Even if you got to deal with them or address it in a certain way, they're not going to be able to throw you off. So you could externally show anger, but internally you're cool. And so this development of these psychic self-defenses is one way to make sure that you stay on this higher level of vibration, irrespective of what's going on.
So thank you. So what if you do that, but they then...
So not
Sorry, honey, thank you very much. What if you do that, but then because... Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Here we go again. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello? Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, brilliant. You can hear me now, yeah?
I can
now. Thank you for that. Yes, I can. Thank you. What if you... What if you do that, but then they interfere in your body and your, anything electrical?
So let me give you the fullness of my answer. So basically, remember, as you talk about vampires and different things or those types of force energy, remember in the science of the, not science, but in the symbolism, what they give you of the vampire, yes, the vampire can't enter your home unless you invite them in. You understand? So the importance of this psychic self-defense is to understand what is real and what is not real. So somebody said, so for example, they might say a black cat walks across your path. This is bad luck, for example. Now, the issue is that if you believe that it's bad luck, then it is bad.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. So this is what I'm saying to you. The psychic self-defense is to understand and separate what is real from what is not real. And so, therefore, the forces can only adversely affect you in that regard if you invite them in. Now, sometimes the challenge is that if somebody is trying to project something upon you and you don't know it's happening, then that can be a problem. Do you understand? Yeah. So therefore, you have to have other protection mechanisms in place to deal with what you can see and what you cannot see. And so you need to establish a connection because you're made up of 4 generational ancestors. Do you understand? You happen to be at the top of the pyramid. So by having an altar in your home, and if you do understand who your 4 generational ancestors are, on your mother's side, the oldest female you make connection with first because she establishes a protection against the whole of the 30 in your 4 generations. Do you understand? And so therefore you have established a level of protection for what you can't see, or for who's plotting against you for things that you can't see. Obviously, where you have known opposition or enemies or people causing you problems, then we had prayers, for example, that dealt with that individual specifically. Do you understand? So you need to target those who are causing you problems, you understand, in a just way, but you need to target them. Do you understand? What happens in this society, so oftentimes, or religion, it pacifies us and says, okay, forgive and forget. But the problem is that in forgiving, that's a transference of the punishment sometimes onto yourself and allows a person then to get away with what they done, isn't it? Do you understand? So you end up taking a double hit because you've transferred what they should have definitely on yourself.
Is that the same with, what if they've been used to deplete you, try and get you to kill yourself? Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
I can hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear me, so I can hear you.
Oh, hold on. We got to disconnect. Oh, it's connected.
I can hear you, so I'm not sure what's on your end.
Mm.
You back?
Yeah, I think they've been disconnected, Nababkak.
Okay. Just for everybody else, just to answer that question. So basically, as I say, you have to protect yourself in multiple ways. So especially if we are on this ascension journey, then, excuse me, on this ascension journey, then you're going to attract those forces. Do you understand? Because any opportunity for them to lower your vibrational rate lower than a set frequency allows them to in-house you, even if it's just for a moment. You understand? Either to feed or to influence certain behavior. And 6 ether forces love nothing more than the blood and energy of the innocent party. You understand? So if the system is still on, one of the things as well is you have to move yourself out of certain environments. You understand? Workplaces and certain things of that nature. Are conducive to setting you up to be under stress, etc., and things of that nature. So, in these roles and jobs, we have to find a way to work. Yeah, obviously we need it to live, money, whatever the case may be. As it tells you in the 9 ball, we should be working to work our way out. So you should have a plan where you're there for a set period of time, eventually to be able to do your own thing, I suppose, in that regard. It may be an industry that is going to be conducive for what your goals are. You understand? Because sometimes self-employment is also good, but it's if you're in the wrong industry to some degree, it can be more stressful than probably even in the 9 to 5. So you need to think about what that pathway is to get to, and ways and smarter ways to make money and different things so that we can have financial freedom to be able to progress and grow environments or build things that are going to be more conducive to that ultimate way of life that we're seeking to achieve. So, okay, any other questions before we close out?
There are no other questions.
Okay, right. So I'm going to do, where's the case I've overspoken. So what I'll do next class, we'll do the mother of existence. So we'll just tie this into the introduction. So I'll do a short introduction of where it'll be long, since they've been on the call. And then, as I say, we'll get into the next class, mother of circle of existence, and just tie up these few parts. But essentially, what this is explaining to us and saying is that, that resonance aspect of things, the resonance frequency that we are interlinking with, is showing us that our body is ordered in a way, as I say, to allow this exchange of information. So it's designed in a way to facilitate that. That's who we are. So if you go all the way back to the very origin of things and how we have then grown, you understand, in these environments, that link from that original is still with us. Do you understand? And the characteristics, etc., are still with us in terms of our makeup, all the way back to those original energies. So we're the manifestation of Papa Ut here. Do you understand? As part of that, that's part of our characteristics and who we are. But we have to retune ourselves. And so, you know, the sort of traditional kind of understanding of what spirituality is not just, as I say, prayer, chanting. You understand? It's everything. Diet, it's reading, it's studying towards the point of mastery. Do you understand? It's then sharing that with others, because each one teach one. All of these things are helping to change the vibration, keep us in sync. But ultimately as well, which maybe is the key difference between us and the ancient Egyptians, is that the environment must be shaped to be conducive also for that growth. You understand? Because of this 24% of our DNA being in a transient state, understood, your environmental factors are going to have a hindering force, or it could have a positive force on your growth. You understand? You feel more comfortable, remember, when you're in your home, isn't it? Because that environment is conducive to how you want to live. When you step outside now, the environment is sometimes not conducive to how you want to live. You understand? So that has to be controlled, which is why there was a Tamaray and its importance, and why the Mukasu and Wadamu wanted to get rid of that land, because what it signified, but not just what it signified, what it had the potential to become. Remember, when you walk through the pylon on Tamaray, it's a different vibration. You understand? Now, what we have to, you hear the Om chant constantly playing, you understand? So there are things taking place or happen there that are conducive to the environment. But what we as Nagaru must understand is how we behave, how we conduct ourselves, you understand, is going to be the highest level of vibration in the environment. So if we're acting like Negroes, you understand, and that behavior, then that's going to be the highest behavior in the environment. You understand? And so everybody, the Patriarch, you understand what we're learning in terms of our guidance, our way of life, even to the point of the clothes that we're wearing, has a certain frequency and signature to it that now must be augmented to be conducive for producing or developing supreme beings once again. You understand? So this is what all of this is leading to. Nature's done its job. You understand? If you've been born healthy with full faculties, you understand, and a healthy mind, so to speak, it's done its job. They've provided the necessary apparatus for us to succeed. Now it's about how much do we want it, and how much work are we prepared to put in and work with each other in love and unity to achieve those goals, understood, and work with that Amun Nabab or the master teacher to inform us and prepare us for that next level of evolution as the gift that our ancestors have given us for this day and time to prepare us for changes that are to come. So with that in mind, we're back again in 2 weeks' time. As I say, we are dealing with Mother. System's very powerful. Very powerful. Master Secret. But as I say, we'll just finish off this just very quickly, so I won't do a long introduction. And we'll get straight into it, and then get into some of the symbolism around that M word, very important word. Yeah, that M word, taking us back into ancient Tamaray and looking at some of the symbolism in terms of the Sefaf and the numbers and numerology as well. So it's all very interesting. So check out previous clips or classes at the YouTube channel, and check out other classes as well from Elijah in Egypt, places around the world to keep your learning up. And we'll see you again on the 20th of March, same time. Thank you everybody for your questions today, and thank you for turning up. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Okay, take care all. Okay, Wadu.